I saw this. It's so silly. Oh, thank you for the memberships. Thank you, Asraka. Appreciate you. Thanks again for the mems, Basaraka. Bienvenidos a todos. ¿Qué tal? Boom, 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 boom. Trump just moved marijuana to a lower schedule. He must be truly desperate. He's going for the stoners. Yeah, I don't know about the Ken Martin decision. Good question, though. I don't know. Discord ban? I'll try to. I have to make a process for that. There's no process in place right now. It's kind of fucked. What SCOTUS decision on tariffs coming? Oh, my sweet summer child. Whenever they feel like. Hire Kafka to adjudicate ban appeals. Bop, bop, bop. Judge Dugan case. I haven't followed it since the briefing on the immunity stuff. But it seems like they could have some trouble. She might get an acquittal. Not confirmed, but she might get an acquittal. I start a stream. Hola, mi hermano. ¿Qué tal, Taco? What up, Jen? What's up, you little whore? What up, everybody? Hope everyone's doing well. Happy Thursday. Aren't you glad it's Thursday? Isn't there something about Thursdays that's just, wow, sensational? Okay, folks. First off, real talk. Unfortunate that we have to do this shit, but yeah, so funnel in for like 10 minutes of real talk, probably less, probably like 5 to 10, and then we're gonna get into the freaking content. Not gonna be a super long stream today, heads up. Got some stuff, and probably the next time you see me, though not guaranteed, maybe later, will be during the holiday situation, so you might see me in my childhood bedroom. So just keep that in mind during the holiday season. Maybe I can get like a better camera or something for when I'm like on the go or some shit like that. Better like equipment. I'm just relying on other stuff. Are you reading chat? I am reading chat. I don't always read chat. So sometimes, depending on how much a message is popping up, I might miss it, right? Okay, real talk real quick. Real talk. So, obviously, tensions have been high. That much is clear. And I want to level with y'all. It is not something I want to do to make a particular community mad or happy or to, get negative attention or to get positive attention from other communities. I will do encounters with bigger streamers, with like breaking points, with other people I can collab with for the goal of like getting my name out there, but I'm not trying to pander or cater or attack particular communities, except perhaps with the exception of MAGA, the community of people who are running our country right now. Maybe with that particular exception. You might not believe me. That's my intent. And why would I, right? Why would I want to needlessly antagonize people? I don't have any interest in being like disliked. Who has that desire? I don't want to be disliked. I generally want to be liked. But I also don't want to be like this fake person who just tries to be nice with everyone. I kind of take the view that if you haven't like made enemies or like made people upset, you're probably doing something wrong. That doesn't mean you want people to be upset or angry at you or consider you to be like, I don't know, persona non grata. I certainly don't want that. But as a consequence of like ever making any kind of opinion known, I guess if all you did was like cooking streams, you could ride that line. But then you probably get someone who like doesn't agree with what you call a sandwich, or you're not supposed to use cream and carbonara or some other debate or some shit, So by virtue of being on the internet and having a society, you're gonna upset some people. But it's not my like desire to do that. I don't want, again, hate. I don't want to cause hate. The kind of people I interact with all the time that we disagree massively. Rob Noor, Good Logic, Viva Frey, Counterpoints, Hutch. It is not my desire. I don't get any gratification from seeing these people suffer or wanting my people to go attack their communities or anything. There are comments that in like my chats and stuff or in my Discord that are highly critical of other people and streamers. My policy has been usually one of maximal free speech. You know, I'm gonna be real with you. I never argued on these kind of like Twitch platforming or banning censorship stuff that it was right to ban all these Trump people or all these anti-vax or whatever. Okay, I always just said like it's not a government issue. It's not Biden's fault. It's not like coercion. But they and they're private companies. They can do what they want. That was always the extent of my argument. This might be controversial for some of you. Like, I would let anti-vaxxers on Twitch. Okay, maybe I would think hard about it in the context of during the pandemic, but in general, like there could be exigencies that will change my mind about certain types of stuff. But in general, I'm pro free speech. I don't love all the algorithm changes and all the stupid shit that Elon has done on Twitter, but in general, I am happy that a bunch of people got unbanned. That's my substantive position. And I carry that value through to how I run a lot of my chats, to the chagrin of even some of my mods. I see, for example, Tomato in the chat, who is often frustrated with me because I don't give her good guidelines as to who to ban and who to like time out and stuff. And the reason is I have just a very relaxed I've always had a very relaxed policy, and everyone knows that. And even bad faith criticism of myself, I let stay on my comments. There will be people sometimes like Lisandro Peña who will be there and will be like, wait, why are you like muting comments or that doesn't happen. Maybe there's like a YouTube thing sometimes if you like do certain words, but it's never a deliberate process of mine. You have to reach some like very high threshold for me personally to like want to even mute you. I haven't muted many people on Twitter. Sometimes I don't see everything where I'm being pinged on Twitter just because of I get a lot of pings and stuff, so I miss stuff. But I'm not the kind of person who tends to block, who tends to ban, and anyone who's kind of interacted with me knows that. It's like because I liked the disagreements. That it's no other reason other than like it's a kind of thing I like. And I like disagreeing with people. And for it to be sort of limited to the disagreement. That's always been how I've operated, okay? That said, there always have to be rules, right? No one under 18 allowed in the server. What are the other rules? I can read some rules. No encouraging things that are like TOS. For some of these places, hate speech, even though I don't like agree with hate speech as like a legal, like you should be banned for saying hate speech or you should be in trouble for it. I do think that that's usually in line with TOS. Same thing with like NSFW. There are some areas where I'm like, okay, it's not that kind of place, okay? And even though I think like there's a high standard for like the criminal world of threats, encouragement, that kind of stuff, it's different when it comes to like this is all stuff you probably know, right? It's like a lower threshold. Like even if this wouldn't meet the criminal standard, if you're kind of encouraging bad stuff from like a direct way, oh my bad, that's going to be banned. So there are some limitations. I'm not trying to say that there's like nothing, but in general, like very very liberal in the sense of allowing dissent, allowing a difference of opinion, and what have you. By and large, it's focused on politics, law stuff, and like the occasional meme. Okay, that's some baseline. And like I mentioned before, I don't have an intent. Like I don't want to upset people on purpose. When I have debates, even very vigorous debates, even shit with like Tim Pool offline, Tim Pool accused me of supporting the shooting of these National Guard people publicly in front of everybody. And even after that, right? Like I don't want to I'm not in the mood. Like it doesn't make me necessarily happy to see bad things happen to him or anything like that. Except if he like broke a law or something. Or if he like, you know, if some shit like related to misconduct, you know. But just on the basis of that, that's not it, right? That doesn't mean I'm not petty. I don't sometimes have like ego arguments to defend my positions when I think that they're being unfairly attacked. But in general, that's my stance. And all types. are allowed. Everyone gets a chance to be in compliance with the rules, especially on the server. Yes, in the chats and that kind of thing. You get a chance. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about this more specifics. I'm aware that there are snarker communities, right? There are communities who are dedicated to snarking, which is like runs the gamut from like unfair slash weird, creepy logging of people's activities. I'm gonna turn off the sounds, but thank you very much. Tracking people, what they say, criticizing them, right? So like, things that are maybe just weird or off-putting or annoying or criticism, right? They run the gamut from that to like criminal activity, things that are harassment that infringe on people's privacy. And I think that it should be clear that I never want that. I do not want to encourage that kind of stuff. And I wholeheartedly condemn that side of it. I think that there's a difference between like genuine criticism, people talking about hypocrisies, to the kind of activities that put people in fear, or that where it's reasonably questionable whether privacy interests are being respected, or whether people are sort of encouraging other things implicitly, that kind of thing. But it's not my intention to promote that version of snarking. And even beyond that, the kind of single-minded focus on particular individuals is something I don't want to encourage either. I don't want to be a place whose only identifying feature or through line pertains to one or two or three individuals, except for me. I want the through line of my community to be about me. I don't want it to be about other, like, criticizing the specific creators. That includes Ethan Klein. That includes Destiny. That includes Hassan Piker. That includes any number of different creators and stuff. I don't want my community to be just places where the focus is only on particular individuals. The kind of thing that happens after that is it becomes a more like snark congregating situation. So I don't want my stuff to be that. You know, I have issues with people like Adam Friended and what he's, he blocked me and we had a conversation with that. I've had issues with other streamers, etc. You don't see in my videos that I post out there just like one person going after them all the time, right? Except for Trump and MAGA and like politics stuff, right? But certainly not of the streamer kind, because it's not my interest, and it's also not what I want to cultivate. That's about intent. Now, I think the kind of standard that I impose on my community is one that ought, by and large, perhaps with some exceptions, you guys can talk about that if you want in this chat. Don't fucking talk about it in the Discord. That's we'll talk about the rule change momentarily, but just know that everything was in here. The rule is clear in the Discord. All right. That the standards that I apply for my community are self-standing and self-contained. You know, think about the issue with the Venezuelan interceptions, right? Of the Americans going to intercept in international waters. I don't think that my rules apply outside of where I hold dominion, which is my different places. Okay? There's a kind of limitation, both that I think I can do, right? But also one in which I think is like reasonable to expect. In that the server isn't a kind of social club where we're checking applications at the door to make sure that you're have a good character. It's not like in some kind of co-op where we're getting statements of good character, you know, your invoices and stuff. It's a generally open space to people to participate, and the rules of the space don't go elsewhere, except to the extent that which there's like a hook to conduct like on my server, right? If you're someplace else and the conduct like affects the server in that you're invoking it or you're directing stuff to it, that's areas in which obviously there's like a hook to the server conduct. I also think it's a bit much to expect that other rule sets from other places, predominate my space, right? Because everyone has their own rules. Everyone has their own standards for what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. Some people, want to create a snark community of a certain kind. Maybe it's the kind which is really bad. Maybe it's the kind which is just like kind of mere criticism. Maybe it's like, you don't remember Fundy snark, which is like the fundamentalist snark. Maybe it's like a topic related snark. Maybe it's ban pit bulls, whatever. That's their responsibility. That's them. They go do that. And their participation in that, I think, is their interest. But it's not something that until and unless it is directly implicated in how I want to run the server, relating to me. In other words, everyone gets a shot in the place to follow my rules in my place. And if someone tries to tell me, hey, you should run your server differently, these are the kinds of things that you should do, I'm interested in hearing that. Tell me why. Not through Discord, okay? I mean, like conceptually, so don't go tell me, send all the stuff in Discord, okay? So again, reiterating, the rule in Discord is as it is. It hasn't changed, but what I mean to say is like, I'm open to hearing on other circumstances, like what are better ways in which one ought to run their server or their different place or their chat, whatever, right? I'm open to that. 100%. What I don't accept and will not accept, separate from being convinced that I ought to run my server a different way, is suggesting that I have to run my server the way that other people say that I ought to run it. That is where I'm like, why? And for the longest time, I have an awareness that people have different views on this, like, war between communities, specifically on the Destiny side of things and on the anti-Destiny side of things. And my position is, listen, I don't want to cultivate either. I don't want to be in a situation in which I'm encouraging like pro snark positions or anti snark positions such that I'm getting dragged into this mess of stuff I don't want to talk about and that don't interest me. And doesn't that make all the sense in the world? That I wouldn't want that? Who would? Who would want that? Why would I want that? So there appears to be a suggestion I should preemptively ban certain people from either side of that divide. From the pro Destiny side, you shouldn't be talking to counterpoints. You shouldn't be allowing zip in your server. These are just people who are actively trying to defend some horrible stuff that's happening and that stuff. So understand that there is criticism that I have and interact with people who support, respect Destiny. There's plenty of criticism on that level. There's also criticism of that, like, people who do not like Destiny are in the server and are in my chat, either because of personal disagreement with those people or because those people participate in snark in other places. Justilk should not be in the server. He should be out of it. Not Zip, but Justilk. Not Counterpoints and Destiny, who I believe was in the server, but Queeman. Not Kafka, but any other number of people. Me trying to distinguish those groups in virtue of their off-server conduct necessarily involves me applying a rule set beyond the scope of my own server, and necessarily involves me wading in a dispositive way on the issues that I do not want to wade into, which are not interesting for me to wade into, which don't necessarily, unless forced by certain accusations, bear on the conduct that happens in the server. So what is being requested of me is not to apply my own rules about how I want to run the stuff in my servers and in my chats, but some other rules, some other sets of things. And it's not clear to me, other than satisfying the preferences of other people, why that should happen. Why should I, except to the extent that it affects the server, the community that I want to build, why is it correct? Why is it good that rather than give everyone a chance in my server, I don't do that? People say, what about groypers? Okay. Well, if a groyper wants to come into the server and they break the server rules, then they'll have violated the rules. That's called debate. That's called, yeah, we have MAGA people in the server that I talk to all the time. If there is some intentional, indication that I'm intentionally fostering it, by which I mean actively trying to create a community of a specific thing, that I totally understand the criticism from that. But that is not my intent, to cultivate a server of MAGA people or a server of snarkers or a server of racist members of the KKK. That's not my goal at all. And in no sense is this for money. Doobie, first of all, who is banned from my server for a reason I don't even know. I give a lot of autonomy to my mods to be empowered to enforce the rules. So I don't even know the basis of Doobie's ban. I think I asked maybe once or twice and didn't follow up because I just didn't have an interest. You can ask Doobie like whether or not he's unbanned. Doobie is banned. But the point is, Doobie can spend as much money as he wants donated in my super chats, and it will not fundamentally change anything about who I am or how I want to run my server. At most, it'll be like, okay, guys, is he, what's happening with this ban? He's like donating a lot of money. Like, should he be banned? And then I didn't even follow up, right? It's the proof's in the pudding. And if he wants to donate to me, my question is, why shouldn't I accept it? What is the reason that I shouldn't accept his money? It's not an exchange, right? In that I'm not providing him any service or any promise or any action. In virtue of what is it wrong for me to just let the donation or whatever from anyone, right, occur, as opposed to why I ought to go in there and like refund it or ban them or somehow try to prevent the donations from happening at all? Why? But this is further to the point. The point is, even putting that aside, if you stop sending me money, this is paltry amounts. Why would, do you think my reputation, my what I stand for, like my values, are worth like such cheap, trifling amounts of money? It's $1,000 he gave the other stream, and then I think he gave, over the course, I don't even know if I had to make a guess over the course, it's probably something like, I don't know, $1,800 over the course of the entire time I've had monetization, which is like less than a year. What, I'm gonna fucking for $1,800? Doesn't even make sense. There's not a single position I've taken that or stance I have on anything that is informed by those paltry sums of money. You know what would make me more money is if I just read the room and just gave people what they wanted to hear. You know how I would do really, really, really well? It's called picking a lane. That's what makes me a shit ton of money, obviously, is to not upset members of my own community with endless conversations, 6, 7, 8, 9 conversations they don't want to hear about a topic that they disagree with me on. It's not even sensible to think that there's a financial motivation here. A, because the sums of here, like, what? The Snark communities? I don't know how many people follow those accounts, but is it even close to anything that Destiny's size is? If I truly, my only motivation was to make money, so it doesn't make sense on a financial side, and my opinions aren't explained by that. You know, I obviously gave my opinion on the lawsuit and on the Piker stuff before I was financially benefited from it. To the extent that I was. And I don't think I was. I thought I was hurt from it. Stunts growth, lose subscribers, review bombs. It hurts me on net. Doesn't help me. And so what's the issue? What is the issue? The issue is, I don't even think this is really about the argument regarding my personal incentives. I don't really think it's about actually making a case that my opinions are being fed to me. Like the SpongeBob where which one was it? They have something in their hat. They're getting instructions. Is it the driving test? And they floor it. I forget what it is. It's about emotion. It's about feeling. It's about feelings of people genuinely feeling hurt, feeling betrayed, feeling sad, angry, feeling like things are unfair. And I believe that a lot of those feelings are sincerely held. I really do think that a lot of those feelings are sincerely held. Now, I hope that people can respect that I have different feelings too. I don't express all my feelings that I have out of for different reasons that I think are good reasons. But I don't doubt the sincerity of the people who say they feel hurt by what I say or what I'm doing. I don't doubt the sincerity of those feelings. And I can argue till I'm blue in the face that they're not right to have those feelings, in my opinion. The feeling, for example, that I'm grifting, I think that that's not a justified feeling. Or that I'm going to turn tanky, I don't think that's a justified feeling. Or the feeling that I'm actively trying to hurt Destiny, I don't think it's a justified feeling. The feeling that I'm actively trying to encourage my community to be a snark community, I can't say that I have any ability to affect the sincerity of those feelings based on me just dragging people into voice chat to make arguments. It's not really about that. And I don't want to claim that I'm the most clear person whenever I talk and that I have a good awareness of communicating myself well to people who are maybe just not, they don't know the words. I use many big word instead of few small word. I have plenty of communication issues that are well documented in virtue of the fact that sometimes we have issues communicated or me understanding what is being said. And I have to have things repeated to me. I'm not perfect on that score. But what can I do about those feelings? What can I do? If all I do is try to constantly acquiesce to those genuinely felt feelings of hurt, betrayal, um, that I'm doing something immoral, that I'm turning, going back on my principles when I think I'm upholding them, right? If all I do is acquiesce, it will never satisfy. I promise. I promise. So I could ban Justilk, Queeman, any Destiny critic from my Discord. I could do that. And in so doing, would I have acquiesced it to feelings that I think are unjustified? No doubt. In some ways, I've already done that. We'll get to the rule change eventually. I'm a yapper. In some ways, I've already done that. In response to the previous socialism conversation, we adjusted the rule to basically say, hey, let's keep it focused. Let's not, go too much into personalities. That's that's acquiescing. That's something I wouldn't otherwise do. Not everyone gets that rule changed. We don't do that for Trump streamers. We don't do that for the average streamer because I'm sensitive to the feelings. I'm sensitive that there's a lot of overlap in our audiences. I could cut off all ties with anyone with whom Destiny doesn't have a good relationship. I could do that. I could never, ever again criticize a position of Destiny's or not do so in certain ways. I could, if I wanted to, say the words that people want me to hear and wade into a lawsuit on a particular side. I could do that. But the problem is, it's not going to satisfy everybody because a lot of it won't be sincerely done. It's done out of fear. Because of course the underlying assertions are not true. And people can tell when you're being sincere and when you're under a gun. The other problem is I don't want to. I don't want to unless there's a good reason. Just acquiesce for its own sake to deal with emotions and sincerely held ones, genuine emotions that don't have any purchase on what's actually occurring in my head. Because if I do that, if I just do it because, even when I think it's unjustified, what good am I? If there are violations of server rules in my server, we will enforce them strictly. Doxing, and we'll get into the rule change eventually. Harassment, we will enforce them 100%, as we always have strived to do. Violations of TOS, the same. What I'm not going to do is be bullied. Into adopting something, a position, or a standard that isn't based in anything consistent, any good reason, any justifiable purpose other than acquiescence and acknowledgement. Now, I say that. That said, my interests have, in fact, changed in virtue of recent events. And let me give you an example of this. So, obviously, we've had this discussion about the Ethan Klein lawsuit, and that has generated feelings of negativity that, like, I'm somehow trying to appeal to smart communities who generally support the defendants, and the Destiny community, which generally supports plaintiff. And it's in that context that I've had my opinion. And that opinion, people have been able to see it develop in real time from the very beginning when I watched it for the first time. Because my editor sent me the video and said this might be interesting. Let's experiment, right? Like you're doing a lot of the legal analysis from the Trump perspective. Let's see if people like it when you talk about these other prominent lawsuits. So I do so. And then people can see the pushback, what I respond to, and how I respond to it. Unlike a lot of other people, I am someone who always wants to hear the criticism and defend it. And I'm just thinking out loud. That's one of the secret weapons or whatever that I utilize in a lot of these conversations. Maybe that's one of the reasons why I think it's more plausible than other people that they don't see their chats, is because I'm just thinking out loud. When you hear my thoughts in the nature of a conversation, I might have some idea about where I want to go generally, but I'm actually listening to the other side and thinking out loud. And everyone can witness and see in real time my opinion develop on the Ethan Klein lawsuit. They can watch it. They're all available. Every conversation, the hours and hours of people, contrary to the implication that was being made, that I've had no exposure whatsoever to the relevant clips related to the saga, just preposterous. Everyone here knows that's a lie. Everyone here knows that you can go back in all my VODs and see people bringing clips to my attention, can see me spending hours talking about this issue, dealing with the criticisms at its strongest, not shying away from it, trying futilely, naively, some might say, in the hope perhaps that either my opinion is adopted or at least people can say it's a genuinely held opinion. Naively saying reason will prevail. And you don't have to agree with my reason, but naively saying reason will prevail. Maybe if I just explain myself, maybe if I just get this person to see my logic, to see what I'm thinking about, maybe they can at least accept that we have a disagreement. It's sincerely held. Naively, innocently, right? And that's what happened in this last week. I love Hutch. Hutch is my boy. I respect Hutch. Hutch expressed he wanted to have this conversation, and I also wanted to have the conversation. Hutch knows what I'm like. Everyone knows what I'm like. I'm just thinking out loud. I haven't changed. When I have these debates, some catch me in a different mood. I might feel a little different. Last night on Discord VC, I was a little bit more chippy and more, relaxed, some would say, and, doing more jokes. But he knows fundamentally what this is. Hutch and I have these encounters every week. Everyone sees it. This is not some special thing. Everyone knows my demeanor in these conversations. They know how I talk to Rob Noor and how I talk to, different people who come on the stream, other examples. You don't need the examples. Even Josiah, when we argue about the judiciary stuff and what have you. Everyone knows that's how I am, and so does Hutch. And so Hutch is not surprised, or maybe you can tell me, I don't have any basis to think he's surprised when he walks in a conversation and I act like I always act. If anything, I think I'm trying to be more trying to build a foundation. That's why I start where I start. Do you care to have this conversation? Do you agree it's important to have this conversation? It's me trying to establish a mutual understanding. And maybe I didn't do the best at having that done. I tried. I can tell you I gave it an honest effort. Okay. But that wasn't sandbagging Hutch. That wasn't trying to mess with him. Why would I want to do that? Why would I want to protect a community that isn't my own, whose conduct I don't want to um, comment on for reasons because I don't want to comment on the entire thing that everyone should understand, which is reasonable. It's not unreasonable. But why would I want to protect them specifically? For like the nothing money? Why? And fuck up my relationship with my actual co-host for no reason? Huh? I don't want to do that. And yet, in light of an honest disagreement among individuals, among me and Hutch, among perhaps communities of my own, it gets to that level. No, it's not your actual opinion. You're lying. Think about that. You're lying. It's not your real opinion. You don't actually hold to this. In other words, you are being deceitful consciously. You're leading your audience to believe a certain thing, and you're doing so because you have a nefarious purpose. And that nefarious purpose is to protect a community who is intent on harassing a young woman who I don't know. Based on nothing. But, Bambi-eyed, naively, I addressed the criticism. Okay, can you explain where you're getting that opinion from? Anybody, come on. Not people from snark communities. People from Destiny's community. This guy, DRT0, come on. Tell me what I'm missing. Talk to me. Tell me what is something wrong? What's happening? Do you think I'm lying here? Do you think I'm being honest? Endless Discord chats. You can see what I'm typing. You can follow along. It's all done in the open. Endless Twitter DMs. What's your opinion on this? Aren't you being hypocritical? Responding to them. Taking the time. That's not my actual opinion. I've always thought this. What about this case? Doesn't this case Harper and Rowe? It says good faith. So does not undermine your point about no. This is why it doesn't do it. Running cases down where there was one person who said, well, here it says that they said like this was designed to be a market substitute. So clearly design and purpose plays into factor 4. No, because look at this filing where they're actually analyzing the factor. Yes, the language appears, that they're taking into account design and purpose, but that's not actually what the court found. The court was looking at objective factors there. And so this is not distinguishing it. This is, the language is fast and loose. It's speaking about design and purpose from an objective sense, not from a subjective sense. So many different objections that have been raised that you guys don't even know about on threads you guys haven't seen that have 10 viewers. And that was the context of yesterday's conversation. So yesterday, after 5 hours of talking to not a snarker, the head mod of Destiny's community, he has an entire effort post. He says, Pisco, just be normal. Just be normal when you're encountering normal people. I read the post. He says, I don't think he'll talk to me about this. I say, yes, I'll talk with you about this. I'll talk to you and we did so in front of everybody for 4 hours. And you can disagree with my approach in that conversation. You can't say I don't have the desire to actually suss it out. I could be doing more interesting things, regardless of whether or not, it's necessarily more money on the margin. things that I would enjoy more. Not that I don't enjoy like going in and out. Now, I get some sort of individual enjoyment out of that. In terms of the topic itself, it's losing me subs. People are saying, "What the fuck? Why are you spending this much time on it? It's boring." So why am I doing it? Why am I spending 4 hours talking to the head mod who made this effort post saying be more normal? Is it because I'm bad faith? It's in that context. And then there's a follow-up that night, yesterday. So that conversation happened like 2 days ago. Then he messages me in the Discord and says, these are the thoughts. And, and I respond to him in text, and you guys can all see the responses in the text. He says, why don't you hop into a VC? I say, okay. In the moment, it's 11 o'clock at night. I see his message. I say, sure, pop in. To talk to a Destiny mod, the head mod, or at least I think he's head mod, most important mod, not a snarker. And we talk. I don't agree with his opinion. I think it's ridiculous. I think what he's saying doesn't make any sense. I've always maintained that. If I was convinced by it, I would say it. I'm not convinced. I don't find it convincing. I think it's stupid, but I'm engaging with it because I want to talk to see what am I missing. Taking it at its strongest from everybody. Loner Box. He's not a non-debate. He's a debater. And you can take issue with how that conversation is run. Oh, wow, it took this long because you're doing that. I totally disagree with that framing, but you can't say it's motivated by like malice. What do I get out of that? I don't think I'm exposed as a hypocrite when you listen to those conversations. I truly challenge you to break apart a lot of these conversations and see who you think is trying to slow down the conversation. And then also another members of the community come to listen to me as is their right to do as a member of the server. Right here meaning a privilege as being a member of the server. They're a member of the server in good standing. In that they haven't violated the rules of the server. And so we're in an open channel where they're allowed to be, not allowed to record. Okay, that's against the rules. But they're allowed to be in the server. They're allowed to be in a VC that was, created for the specific purpose of addressing concerns from Destiny's community, from Destiny's top mod. And what was the response to that? What was the response? Was the response, oh, look, Pisco, he's crazy, he's wrong, but at least he's hearing the argument out. Hobbit messages him and he's willing to have the conversation. He's not like one of these cowards who won't. He's not like one of these cowards who won't have the conversation. More than I can say for them. At 11 o'clock, not even streaming, right? No financial motivation. I don't know who the fuck is going to join the fucking VC. I'm on my phone, laying down on my bed. And what was the response to that? What was the response? To taking the time to address concerns from the Destiny community as expressed by Destiny's head Reddit mod, as expressed by a member in good standing of that community, Zip. What was the response to that? Was that a point in my favor? No. Why was it not a point in my favor? The fact that I did that. It was more evidence against me. Why was it more evidence against me? Well, because there were snarkers that showed up in the VC. Ha! That proves the point. That proves the point. That proves what we've been saying. Because they showed up in a VC where they have access to the VC. Because where I couldn't have predicted, did I ping them? No, I didn't fucking ping them. Maybe someone told them. I can't control what they fucking DM to each other, but they haven't broken server rules. Not that I know of. Maybe they have. If you bring it to our attention, we will assess it. But where they have a right to be, someone started violating the rules. Who violated the rules? Whoever was restreaming. I don't even know. We're going to take a look at it. Whoever was restreaming. Someone showed that someone was restreaming it. That was breaking my rules. Because there's a rule. We don't want people to stream the VCs without people knowing about it. I don't want that to happen. But someone was restreaming it, weren't they? And I have a suspicion about where that rule breaking came from. And you do too. So what's going on here? So my rules don't matter to a community. I'm specifically in the VC to address concerns from that community, from people who are in good standing and who are equipped to be able to present the arguments in their strongest form. And because snarkers, anti-fans are in the VC, I am condemned as myself a snarker, an anti-fan. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What doesn't matter is this Bambi-like naive approach in which, well, if we just convince them, because it's not about that. It's never been about that. If the situation with the Ethan Klein lawsuit were completely reversed, 95% of people's perspectives would be completely reversed. Everyone knows it. I can't appeal to anything other than your gut in this moment. Everyone's positions, 95%, not mine, would be exactly the opposite. So it's not about convincing them on my argument. It's not on the specific question of whether I'm good faith or bad faith. It's not about whether I'm willing to hear the criticism, spend time specifically to address it. It's not about that. It's not about what I say. It's snapshot. VC. And you're condemned as a terrorist? Putting aside the absurd standard that is. Of course it's absurd. It looks ridiculous that anyone can say it out loud. I'm naive enough to think that anyone ever cared for the standard at all. Or a standard or anything. No longer. Drama related to Ethan Klein or Destiny is explicitly banned in the server. There may be, and just to lay it out there can be occasion potentially where I might address stuff, if it comes up, if for whatever reason, Dan Saltman wants to have a conversation with me in which it's all done and openly on a live stream. That is the one exception. And then, you can chat if it's like responsive to stuff that's going on. But in terms of the server, done. And that is fucking depressing. Because that is not a rule that anyone else gets. No one else gets that benefit. No one else gets a we don't talk about their bad shit rule. But in the interest of, at a bare minimum, lowering my level of annoyance of having to field this shit, my interests, a special little rule for two special little communities. No drama discussion on mine about those two streamers. If you want to do that, do it somewhere else. I don't want to see it. And with that, folks, we have some content. We got another hour, so y'all can chill or not. But yeah. And if you try to be cute about it, we're just going to be banning. Because I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. I don't want it there. Because the kind of shit it causes is constant rule breaking. Anyway, it is sad that we have to do this shit and that I have to take time out of my day to address it. But that is unfortunately where we're at. I mean, you can go crazy in chat, but like, just understand that mods might, post now. Like, if you try to introduce stuff on stream, stuff that I'm not doing, I can't protect you. But if I'm addressing, obviously, you can go into comments and stuff. But yeah, drama is boring. It's boring. Boom. Speaking of, the content I planned for today was actually to talk about another member of Destiny's community in good standing, namely Kafka Esquire. So that was my plan to review stuff he did. And so that's what I'm going to do. Because guess what? I'm going to be myself. I'm going to do the things that interest me. And if you don't like it, you can get the fuck out. Okay, folks, recenter. Everyone else leave. Oh shit. The Gondam and Gilmore show. The GG show. So these are, speaking of communities, Gondam, is he like not in my server anymore? He was like a long-standing member, and Gilmore's there too. So we're gonna be super fair to Kafka. Yo, can I just say already way better than the music intro fucking Katie Miller show. Thinking back on that Katie Miller episode with Kafka, not Kafka, fucking confused Kafka and Kash Patel. That dude's name, those days are numbered, bro. Katie was trying to fuck with him. I don't think there's any other conclusion one can draw from looking at it. But Kafka Esquire, first, is this like a first solo appearance for you in a show? So this is going to be you, like your first time on your own show, right? Or like on like a different show where you're being invited to be yourself. I don't know if I'm not trying to be mean.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special episode of the Gondam and Gilmore Show. Tonight, we are joined by the magnanimous, scratch that, the great Kafka Esquire. Kafka, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hey everyone, I'm Kafka Esquire. I'm a chatter from DGG that danced on the ashes of the bridge between Pisco and Destiny. And
oh wow! I mean, so great. I thought this was like a legal thing to start with, and you're dancing on the ashes. Okay, you can dance some more, Kafka.
His spot, I wear his face on screen, on stream, and go on and talk about boring legal stuff there. I also kind of like show up in some other people's streams now and then, hang out in the bunker. And
the bunker,
generally just kind of trip over my dick through legal arguments in different discords.
Wait, just real quickly, Kafka, before we get into it, is it true that you were once a paralegal under Zip?
Yes, yeah, no,
what the fuck?
A really tough time in my life. But if it weren't for Zip hiring me to be his paralegal, I just don't think I'd be where I am today. Like,
I think Zip wants to be a law person at some point. I think he said that at some point. He really fucking okay. All right, last little exception. He bit one of the most insane bullets I've ever seen anyone bite. Jaws of steel, that guy. Like, it was, you had to be there. It was, I don't think I've ever set up a hypothetical that was so clearly, so obviously insane. And we've done crazy shit. We've done Blades of Grass. We've done all that stuff. But, just, kudos to Zip for biting that that bullet. I mean, the guy has diamonds in his teeth.
Man, what a guy! I truly, probably the best amongst us, if I have to say anything. And all the hate he receives online, entirely unfair. But I'm not willing to defend him against the charges of being the new Jew stalker.
Yeah,
dude, can you have a personality trait that? Sorry, maybe. All right, I'm not defending J Stalk or whatever. Oh, by the way, one thing clear. I have not made any assertion as to the rightness or wrongness of any particular. I was looking at a VOD and I saw something coming up from Justil where he's like, I didn't do certain things. I'm not making any characterizations of anyone's conduct as relates what I don't want to talk about. So I hope that is clear that when I'm speaking hypothetically and conditionally, that those aren't assertions of fact.
If we love you here at the bunker, I think everyone that calls you a tailpipe fucker is just out of line, and we'll ban them from the bunker. So we love you. But we're not going to talk about boring legal topics tonight. We're only talking about the most interesting legal topics. And starting off with Kafka, who do you think is the worst lawyer streamer? There's
What a great intro. See, this is a guy with a plan. Now, Gondom, as I understand, he like floats in and out of different lawyer communities. I think he's an OG Bastiat guy. I think that's right.
Someone to pick from, but we want to know who your kind of Mount Rushmore of terrible lawyer streamers are.
Yeah, I've got kind of a list from this is worst streamer in the sense of like if they are on the stream, I'm upset and don't want to watch it. So that's like how I'm saying like worst lawyer streamers. Number one for me is Good Logic.
Good Logic. No, that's not for me. Because Good Logic like makes me laugh. It's probably people like Wilt Chamberlain. Is Julie Kelly a lawyer? She pisses me off. It's the types who like try to get into the weeds or purport to get into the weeds. Like Good Logic is like, I don't even see the case. I don't even know anything about it. I didn't even read it. Whereas like, and to that I kind of find, even though it infuriates people when that happens, I kind of find something like almost, you guys are gonna hate me. I'm almost like a little cute that like, oh, and I know that a lot of times it's deployed maliciously, the ignorance or whatever, right? But it's the people who like say that they're the soothsayers, or the ones who did the deep diving. That's that shit that fucking triggers me.
Fucking hate anytime I see his fucking face on stream. It is so annoying to listen to that guy talk, and he makes really bad arguments. Lauren De Laguna, I actually really find her really annoying.
Does she do content?
It's funny because like before everything happened, anytime I saw her on stream, I also just was like, man, I really don't like this person. And then like,
because of her personality or her legal takes? I remember I got annoyed at her legal takes pretty much universally. I don't think there's a single moment where I'm like, that makes sense. I was always like incredibly triggered listening to her.
Like Christmas happened for me, and everybody else started to hate her too, so that was really great. Then Rakita Law, that guy's just got...
He doesn't even like do law that much in his streams, guys. Rakita is like that's like saying like, what's your favorite what's a good example? What's your favorite movie? Godfather, right? It's like that's like such a stock pick, but actually when you pull it apart, maybe at a certain point in his career for sure, that's where it's like the seminal pick or whatever. But nowadays, I don't think that's accurate.
Way too much smugness, and he got everything that was coming to him for wearing that Pikachu or Sonichu medallion. Glad he wore it. Glad it.
The Sonichu medallion. Oh, the curse of the Sonichu medallion.
Fucked his life over.
You're glad it fucked his life over? What the fuck, dude? This is kind of fucked up. Wait, why?
He got everything that was coming to him for wearing that Pikachu. Or
I think it might be a joke. You're kind of saying it on like with a deadpan, and so it kind of seems like you're serious. Maybe it's a joke though.
Sonichu medallion. Glad he wore it. Glad it fucked his life over.
That seems like not a joke. I don't think that you should wish that like Rakita did drugs in front of his kids or whatever he's accused of. Whatever it was.
Ryan Mullally. This is actually
that's a good pick. Now I like Ryan Mullally interpersonally, but in terms of annoyance factor, I think Ryan probably takes the cake. That's like a good pick.
When I first saw him, I was like, he's not that bad. Recently, just really difficult to.
No, I've always been triggered by Ryan Mullally. Always. Because I think I first started like either interacting with him or hearing about things he was saying on the Trump on the immunity decision, and I literally think he makes no sense on that decision.
Sit through anything that he puts up there. I've got Lactoid up here, which is kind of unfair because
yeah, so Lactoid is of that type. That said, it's fun to debate Lactoid because he knows enough about the issues to have a little back and forth on it with some additional kind of like shared language and concepts that like someone like Rob Noor doesn't have. So there's an aspect of debating Lactoid that I find more satisfying than Rob Noor, because Rob Noor, a lot of stuff that I'm saying he might take it a certain way, that like where I say something like, probable cause isn't that high of a standard. He might be like, oh, it's not a high standard. So what? Okay, so I'll arrest you on probable cause. And so I think he'll like make assumptions that Lactoid won't necessarily make. That said, he hasn't been. I kind of like expect really unhinged takes from him in a way that now I expect it from Ryan, and so I'm less bothered by them. Yeah, they're both annoying. Good. Like, these are good picks.
I mean, like, honestly,
top YouTube conservative lawyer. What would we say? Top. I actually like Good Logic. But not because I think he's like takes her sane or anything, but in terms of watching, I like watching Good Logic. Pentuple? Oh, is this the guy in my replies? Holy shit. On the auto pen shit. One day I'm gonna have to do a review of that Twitter thread. Crazy. Nate the lawyer. Actually, I don't consider him. I know that he kind of does like the appeals to conservatives, Jen. And he's kind of like playing that role, but he's kind of more centristy. I kind of don't view him as like a conservative lawyer.
Lactoid is on stream. Like, he himself is not great, but like, man,
yeah, Will Chamberlain I don't like at all.
Bag. And it's just like every time he is on stream, I'm really enjoying watching it. But he himself, I don't really like him very much. Also, he and I did do a debate on Wick TV, and then he got upset with me about how that went and insulted me. And then I believe I believe he's blocked me at this point, but he like came into the Discord, just insulted me right there.
Wick TV
left, and I believe blocked.
Wait, who did this? Really, who the fuck did this?
I believe he got upset with me about he himself. Time he is on stream, I'm really enjoying watching it. But he himself,
Who?
I don't really like him very much. Also, he and I did
Who is this
on Wick TV, and then he got upset with me about how that went and insulted me. And then I believe I believe he's blocked me at this point, but he like came into the Discord, just insulted me right there, and then
on civil law,
really blocked me, which is really funny. And then
Lactoid, got it.
Last one, I'm gonna put Legal Mindset, just because I'm pretty sure I have.
Legal Mindset like makes me scared. Like, I watched that. Did you guys see the the Legal Mindset video, which was like the breeding visa? We have to breed. This is all great. It's all ready and already Trump approved. He approved the breeding visa. We're all gonna breed and all this stuff. Bring in the breeders.
To put him on here because he's probably like.
What the hell?
Is that the guy that abandoned the?
What did he say there? Did you like say a slur? That was jarring. What did you say? Look at this stuff. Isn't it neat? Wouldn't you think? Holy shit, stop spamming. Jesus Christ.
The Destiny debate? I always forget who that one is.
I thought Legal Mindset's the passport bro.
Yeah. Oh, he's the sex tourist. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so like, I feel like if I don't include him on the list, I'm kind of tacitly.
You're just like naming every
which I don't.
lawyer Kafka. You're kind of.
All right, so
you just like went through everybody. You know, I'm gonna dock points from that. I mean, I think that's lame. I think you got to stick with one, and if they ask you questions about others, then you can open it up. I think this is way too many people.
A good list. You took a lot of mine, so I also go through my list in order. But so what I have number 1 was Andrew Branca, who was
dude. The fucking why does this happen, bro? Okay, I am gonna bring up a Zip comment. In terms of like the most ridiculous things I've heard in the last 2 weeks, among them are what fucking Zip brought up yesterday. So but then also the Bronca thing. All right, we're gonna end on that. So the 2 things that most threw me from Zip yesterday, I'm not exaggerating. He called me when I was saying like Denims saw the video. She's like, "Wait, did you say did she see the video or did she watch the video?" I wanted to shoot myself in a video game. Zip actually called me on that. He was like, "No. Did you say see or did you say watch?" And because like I said see, but she didn't. She watched the video, right? I'm like, and then the second one that Zip brought up, he was like, "Oh, I distinguish between the action and bringing a lawsuit and bringing a lawsuit." And it was like 50 minutes of saying, what is the difference between the action of bringing a lawsuit and bringing a lawsuit? I kid you not. I'm not exaggerating. People who were there, they can testify. They're technically different, see and watch. But everyone understood what I meant in that context where I was like, so, you know, she saw the video, and wait a second. She didn't see the video. She watched it. And I'm like, are you trolling me? And then before that, Hobbit, he messaged, I should respond to it. He was like, what's the difference between should and ought? And I'm like, I don't really think a difference. Wait, are you saying that I'm exaggerating, right? But it was like this, aspects of it. I think that's saying something ought versus should. And I'm like, I guess people might think, I don't even know what it would mean for it to be stronger, for you to say ought versus should. I consider them the same thing. What do you think the average person would say is stronger, ought or should? I'm like, my intuition is that probably ought, but I don't know. And he was like asking me like how certain. He's like, yes or no. I guess it was some kind of meta performance or something. But I was like, I don't know what the fucking answer is. Oh, anyway. The Bronca comment about the shipwreck thing is still like in line with those insane things that I fielded yesterday. Like it's maybe even more. He's like, they weren't shipwrecked. They were bomb wrecked.
Person you're referring to, Gondam, who tapped out of the debate.
Doobie says, so this is Doobie Bucks. The level of pedantry is exactly what we need in our justice system. Please donate this to Zip Law School Fund. All right, we'll make sure that Zip gets every penny.
Which is very funny and very soy. Number 2 is Good Logic, who you mentioned before. Oh, yeah. Although he is from my neck of the woods, unfortunately, I can't really stand what he says. Number 3 for me is Legal Mindset, who you also mentioned.
Wow.
I don't understand this because Legal Mindset is like, I'm scared shitless when I watch a Legal Mindset video. I'm like concerned for many different various peoples, many different groups. And so I watch those videos. I kind of don't view them as legal videos. They're more like threats of some kind. I don't know.
Number 4 is Viva Frey. Although I did kind of enjoy his last conversation with Pisco.
Yeah.
But I really can't stand that guy at all.
Pisco, I hit a reef. Yeah, dude. When Bronca tried to pull that shit, bro. And they know. I mean, they must know how insane they sound. Like, why even agree to that debate on Wick TV? Like, do you think that Soy Pill and Steven are gonna like let that slide? It's just so fucking stupid that these people. Oh. And that guy, he called himself what? The preeminent fucking self-defense person in all of U.S. law.
Number 5, I wish he wasn't on the list, but I have to put it on here only because it makes me
don't say it. Don't say it.
Well, no, it's Mullally. It's not.
Okay.
You know. And then number 6, obviously, Mike from the bunker.
Mike from the bunker? Who the fuck is that? Mike from the bunker. Mike from the bunker. Archie Bunker. Mike from the bunker. Where do you find Mike from the bunker? Mutant version of Mike from PA? Oh, PA? Oh, it's just Mike from PA. Mike Two Trees? No, it's not Mike Two Trees. Mike Two Trees is actually like he's smart. Mike from the bunker. Wait, is it Mike Two Trees? I think Mike Two Trees is like reasonably intelligent. Oh, maybe did he say something like unhinged?
I'm putting him back on. I'm putting him on my list.
Okay.
Yeah, he's number 2 on my list. I think Good Logic is probably the most insufferable to listen to. As little content as I consume, the guy is just so fucking retarded. He's so stupid. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like I think everybody on this list is like bad faith to some degree.
Wait. Is it Mike in the Peace Corps or Mike Hassan waiting room? Or that must be Mike from PA. I don't know who this is.
But that guy is easily the most just like, I am on screen, I'm gonna just say words into the camera and then just default to saying I'm a lawyer. Like it's insane how dumb the stuff he says is. Because like Ryan Mullally, it's like, yeah, this stuff is like what he's saying right now is fucking retarded. But like,
no, Ryan Mullally should know better. That's why I like put more. Like Mullally is saying insane shit that doesn't even like. Where he should know better. Good Logic is kind of like, oh, it's Good Logic, you know. I don't feel that way with Ryan Mullally. Ryan Mullally triggers me. Good Logic does not.
Okay, whatever. I guess there is some like legal school of thought that might lead you to that conclusion. Like
people want to debate with Doobie on his ass take about Venezuela.
Good Logic. I can't.
Maybe like in a couple weeks
where his arguments are going, where he's starting from or ending. Just it's.
I don't think he knows is the problem most of the time. Just on Lactoid too, like I actually kind of like talking to Lactoid when I used to be in the Piscord, but
did he get banned? I think someone banned him.
The fact that he defends,
see, like I don't even know who gets banned. And Gundam was a long term. I thought he was banned, but I didn't know for sure.
It's like corpse fucking. It's just hard to like get over. It's hard to take someone seriously when they, passionately argue for having sex with corpses. I don't know. It's kind of weird.
What?
Oh, I think my corpse fucking like screwed over corporations, but now I understand why you don't like it.
Huh?
No, corpse.
Fucking. Yeah. No, I found Lactoid interesting to me just because it was like, with like for me, I try very hard. Like I'm sure y'all have seen it. Like I might make strong statements or make an argument or something, but if I'm wrong, I'll just like admit it. Like, oh yeah, I was wrong there. Like thanks for educating me.
Good faith.
Like, but like the me watching Lactoid in just like real time, just getting like straight up corrected on something and then doubling down on it and just never giving ground, and it's just like, whew, what the like. And I know all these people
Mullally never gives ground ever. I could be like, well, do you think the president has some like core executive duty to order the military to do like lethal kinetic strikes?
But I saw Lacto do it like 2 or 3 times in a row that was just like really uncomfortable, or just like factually wrong, and I was like, oh man, buddy. Like you gotta fix that. You gotta stop doing that. It's just painful.
And just before we move on, shout out to the best lawyers on Twitch: number 1 Lecture Fan and number 2 Bostiet. Gilmore,
true, these are the OGs.
Has a statement. He says that courts shouldn't factor in the potential impact on society. Gilmore, what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
All right, so this is a bugaboo of mine. That I don't.
What does that mean?
That courts, judges, whoever's making determinations in these cases should factor in what the actual influence on their decisions will be on society or even the parties at hand. They should only focus on the law, the facts, and that's it. Nothing else.
Well,
see, I would agree with this if sometimes that weren't, strictly speaking, relevant to an analysis, right? Like, doesn't a reasonable duty of care turn on what like optimizing some kind of result in society? Similar with like the Eighth Amendment, which kind of then I guess you would say, well, if a legal principle incorporates by reference results in society, then you could consider it for that end. One area which I think that this is very inconsistent from the Supreme Court precedent perspective is this notion of major questions doctrine, where in order to apply it, you would need to make some sort of judgment call as to the bigness, smallness, importance, lack of importance of a given issue. But surely, like, the results of a policy might influence how we would interpret what the policy is, or like what the rule is. Like, if the rule, I'm guessing he would accept results insofar as they inform like absurdity, the absurdity doctrine, and things like that. So there's got to be caveats here, which I don't think that he doesn't have.
Okay, 1 second. You don't mean that. You believe that the judges should take into account whether or not the decision provides relief to the parties.
Well, if it's like legally, if it's under the law, they're entitled to relief, and under the facts, they're entitled to relief, then yes. But if it's just like, I feel bad for this person.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but what if they're like courts of equity, which are supposed to consider that, right? You don't think that courts should ever do that? I mean, a lot of this shit is judge-made law, common law, you know?
Yeah. You're not, like, no sympathy. Like, okay, let me...
And I'm assuming this also carves out, like, sentencing? Because judges presumably would, like, want to have some thought about what the results are likely to be if you have a short sentence versus a long sentence when you're doing sentencing. So I think this needs to be we need to further clarify the metes and bounds.
Let me ask you this. Let's say we're in an area where there's like, it's a gray area. Maybe the law is like silent on something, but there is a problem and it needs to be resolved. And do you think in that sense that courts should not say, well, let's use this maybe as one channel of analysis, right? Like, yeah, like, okay, nobody's really talked about this, but let's just like look at what's public sentiment about this? Like, you don't think that should factor in at all there either?
Not unless it's somehow part of the standard.
If the standard itself, or something right. Like if the standard itself incorporates results, then use it. And here he's saying like prior precedent, so kind of assuming that he doesn't think future precedent should incorporate that. But then the question is going to be like recentered. Why is it bad to establish these rules, and why would we want rules that incorporate results? So I think that just referring to prior precedent, which incorporates as part of its test results, doesn't get you to resolve the actual like interesting question here: is when and in what circumstances should results factor into the legal tests?
Then maybe.
So I think Kafka here is asking some good questions, and I like some of the clarifications that Gilmore is giving.
But outside of that, no.
See, for me, it's like I'm actually so this is sometimes referred to as public policy. And I'm actually a really big fan of it. I really like it a lot. I think it's more of a just like one form of analysis amongst many.
See, I think what Gilmore is getting at though is there's this judge out of the Seventh Circuit. God, someone will help me with his name. Posner. Is it Posner? Richard Posner? And he was known he triggered the fuck out of like conservatives. Do you guys never know what I'm talking about? And he was kind of just like, I will rule on, this is a characterization. The characterization was, Posner would just do like, this is what I think is the best rule for society, and this is the rule I'm going to impose. And holy crap, how he triggered. Like even, I believe there were times in either Supreme Court confirmation hearings or in other, like maybe oral arguments where they like directly or indirectly reference Posner to shit talk him. Yeah. It's Posner, right, Mike?
You can use. I don't think it should be like an overriding one or like should be applied every time.
Was this reaction a part of the settlement with it? No, I promised Kafka I would take a look at this like weeks ago. God, you guys are so conspiratorial.
But I actually really like public policy in a lot of ways where it's like, all right, like,
and you probably hate DGG, right? So it's both sides. Leave me the fuck alone. But Love you guys.
Literally nobody wants us to do this thing. Let's not do this. Literally everybody doesn't give a shit. Let's just do it. Or you know what?
He was actually a conservative. Actually, Posner was right because he comes out of like the Chicago stuff, like Chicago. Let's see, is it Richard Posner? Richard Allen Posner. Oh, he followed up on Discord. Okay, I'll see. Thanks. Yeah, he was a professor at U Chicago. Yeah, cool.
We see how while there might be a public sentiment aspect, there's also a like I usually see a public policy argument of here's public sentiment, and also here's like a reason for why it's good for society. I think it's pretty rare for it just to be purely public sentiment. But I think that I will say this though, any opinion that the Supreme Court lays down that relies on public policy should, one, be more vulnerable to being overturned and replaced in the future, and two, should be entirely vulnerable to being
great. So why don't we do that with Trump versus United States? We'll start with that one.
Superseded by legislative action, right? So like let's say like the Supreme Court came out and was like, oh, like public policy, we're going to let gay people get married, and then the legislature comes out and goes, no, we're going to pass a law that says gay people can't get married. To me, in that scenario, it's like, oh, okay, well, like the Supreme Court no longer can say that there's a public policy, like there's public sentiment for gay people to get married because the people voted, elected a Congress, and then that Congress said gay people can't get married. So what's the legal argument for the judges to say there's some kind of
right? So in matters of public policy, to the extent of a conflict, you go through the democratically elected branch as opposed to the judges, who are less accountable, if ever.
Overriding public sentiment, right? But I think that there's room for it. However, I think I would be like I think for me there's room for it, but I don't think I would cry if like they got rid of it entirely, right? Like, I don't know how much harm there would be to the system. Let me ask you this, Gilmore. Do you think that like a gridlocked or like a poorly ran legislature would like necessitate some more of like judicial action there, or do you think that like the judiciary should just totally ignore any of that?
I think that by doing it the way I'm proposing, would kind of hopefully wake up the legislature to actually change laws or make rules that.
I kind of hate this because this is like, I guess I don't necessarily hate it. I think that it needs more grounding out, right? There needs to be some kind of empirical case about which judicial philosophy is preferable. People just kind of assume, well, like, what grounds out originalism? Why is originalism good? Why ought we adopt that framework of viewing the Constitution? You could take a view that originalism is, in fact, constitutionally required, but the Constitution does not explicitly contain within it, like a how to read the Constitution part of it. Like the Constitution does not itself incorporate an interpretive principle, and even if it did, it's not clear. Like anything within the Constitution, right, will be subject to its own principle of how to read that, of the guiding principle,
actually matter here. I think it's comical in today's society to hope that or believe that Congress has a way of doing that. But at least hopefully on the local level, they'd be able to actually pass laws that deal with the issues at hand. So that's kind of my pipe dream here.
No, I think that's probably the strongest argument, right? Like it's kind of a thing where it's like it's hard. It's really easy for me and for a lot of people to say like, well, the courts could fix it and they could do this. And it's like, yeah, like technically they can, but like now we're just like letting one branch of the government abdicate its responsibilities, and the other one is going to pick them up and do it in a really shitty way that isn't very well, like doesn't have a lot of great oversight, doesn't have a lot of great checks and balances against it. Meanwhile, like then this other side there's no punishment for abdicating that responsibility. So like I think that's probably the strongest argument in a kind of like big picture thing. But at the same time, like I don't know, real people are hurting, and like I do think there are matters of public sentiment that like probably should have already been fixed, and the court's going like, yeah, fuck this, like we're gonna just come in here and make sure people aren't getting hurt. That being said,
okay, a lot of yapping here, but I hear you.
To then like, I think. Oh wait. I think this is what they should do.
Say the biggest yapper in the universe.
Public policy decision like that, it should be required that it only lasts like 5 years. Something. So then people
5 years,
like really, oh wow, we love this. This is great. We love this decision because it's done the thing that we want to do, and then in 5 years it's just done.
Yeah, but the real question is which ones are those? Because obviously the argument with respect to Obergefell and gay marriage and that shit isn't that, oh, we're doing this for public policy reasons. It's this is what the Constitution requires, either under, I don't know, substantive due process with respect to marriage or with respect to equal protection. Or that opinion is very unclear to me, by the way. Does anyone else have a have an issue parsing through Justice Kennedy's opinion in Obergefell. 5-4 decision. I paused too early. Okay. 5-4 decision. Scalia at his angriest in dissent. And I have some questions about Kennedy's opinion too.
Oh, I think. Oh, wait. I think this is what they should do. Anytime there's like a public policy decision like that, it should be required that it only lasts like 5 years, I think. So then people get this like really, oh wow, we love this. This is great. We love this decision because it's done the thing that we want to do, and then in 5 years it's just done, and now they don't have it anymore. So then like the public then loses that thing that they like, so they push their legislatures to pass a law for it. That's what they should do.
Okay.
Obergefell was about it failing rational basis. Yeah, like that feels like an equal protection issue, right? Where you're not allowed to have discrimination of like bare hatred, bare animus is not a sufficient distinction as a rationale to exclude some groups versus others. But I think that kind of just like begs the question. Because the question ultimately is like, what is marriage and what ought it be? Right? Because presumably you wouldn't fail rational basis when it comes to like women's sports, right? Yeah, maybe I'll have to reread Obergefell. Because someone could quite easily say, well, having men in women's sports, you could find men who have the same hormone level and the same bone structure and this and that. And so isn't it just bare hatred of the... it just always kind of felt a little odd to me to not ground it in some kind of substantive due process or some like classification of a higher scrutiny analysis. It does beg the question. Equal protection is strict. Equal protection, you can analyze things on a rational basis with equal protection. For example, equal protection with respect to women is subject to intermediate scrutiny, and equal protection with respect to certain insular minorities. That's the footnote in Caroline products, footnote number 4, whatever. With like almost like with a rational basis with teeth, this kind of rational basis with bite. So I think the different tiers of scrutiny apply in equal protection context. I want to get through the thing here though, but I appreciate your comment.
I can see that.
You get a little taste. You get a little bit of gay marriage as a treat, and then if you really want it, you got to do.
Sounds like a meme, Kafka.
So just to summarize, your ideal system has fewer radical leftist activist judges.
Yeah, of course.
That's the judges who are legislating from the bench. Right
By the way, these people and most practically like, I think this is true of every one of my mods. Every one of my mods, I think this is true. Maybe there's one or two, are significantly more conservative than me. And all the lawyers in my Discord are like originalists or very skeptical of liberal judges. And so again, I just want to stress, and we have such a great time talking. I definitely cultivate a community, but it's not tankies. It's people who I want to talk to, which includes conservatives who are highly critical of liberal judges and liberal activists and shit like this.
Yeah, and Kafka. I'll give you a really egregious example that has been going around my mind for a while. Yeah. So I'm assuming it's the same in your jurisdiction, but if you don't assert an affirmative defense in your answer, it's waived, right?
Yeah.
One example of an affirmative defense is a statute of limitations.
Right.
Oh, I believe in my jurisdiction. Let me think. No, yeah, that was also waived. I was thinking something else.
So let's say there's a statute of limitations of like 1 year for a defamation claim. And someone brings a lawsuit against person A brings a lawsuit against person B for defamation that happened 30 years ago. Person B defaults, doesn't answer, and person A gets a default judgment against B.
Okay.
Do you think the court should, on its own, be like, hey, this is way before the statute of limitations. We're not letting you proceed with the case?
Oof. I think no, right? I don't know how I feel about that. I used to lean more like Breyer-esque, which is a kind of like a originalism here, or a kind of version of like values-oriented judicial lawmaking, which I don't really view as that separate from the originalist school of thought from an analytical perspective, except perhaps the degree to which that value might change over time, or the value is shaped by different contexts over time. On Breyer's view, I think the value doesn't change, but we do in light of that value. And so, take for example, cruel and unusual punishment. That there's at some abstraction a value being expressed in the Eighth Amendment, that they weren't just codifying what they took to be cruel and unusual at the time, that it was incorporating as understood. Like, this is a constitution that needs to be robust enough to last generations, that when the framers put this into the Constitution, they weren't just trying to codify stuff. They were trying to have a different level, except where it's very clear, it's very specific, right? That they were trying to have some kind of value there at a different level of abstraction. And I was always very convinced that that was the quote-unquote result that would lead to the better outcomes, and therefore, on that view, like the better judicial philosophy. But nowadays, because the court kind of like determines, by which I mean like the Supreme Court, kind of determines what the law is in the kind of real sense, I pretty much begin and end my analysis with originalism as I understand it these days. But that's more because I'm trying to be like consistency pilled on what the court has been doing, or at least saying it's doing, and less about any strong views regarding originalism as an interpretive philosophy. Due to a recent appeals court case, I was reminded I need to re-argue with you about the preamble being operative for legal cases. What? I never read Breyer's book. No. But I understood what he said, and I understood, I always thought Breyer was very based. And he had some of my favorite, in oral arguments, Breyer had like the most convoluted, like silly hypotheticals that would just go on and on and on. And but it was so fun to listen to Breyer in oral arguments. Him, Scalia, and let me think. Who else is fun to listen to oral arguments? Alito pisses me off, but he asks good questions. Who else? I think Kagan is hilarious in oral arguments. Right now, I think my favorite justice is probably Kagan.
Okay. There's like
Roberts is not really considered an originalist.
If we're talking ideal world, yes. I think that this is we're getting a little bit into like how the legal system should change. But I think there's a lot of these procedural and operational things within the way that lawsuits work that should no longer be adversarial, right? Like a statute of limitations, thing like that. Like, I don't even know, like, you could literally set it up so that when you file the claim, you have to like enter the statute of limitations of your claim. Sure.
Yeah.
Right? Like, to me, I think that there.
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like there should be. But the thing is, you can always have an argument that the statute of limitations is like told for some reason, right? And you never even got to bring. You never got to have that argument. So I would say the following. If the judge wants to do that, you should be allowed to present an argument about those different like gating issues, the gating like kind of legal issues like statute of limitations, etc. I don't think that they should just apply it without giving you an opportunity to be heard on it. There should be a default if and when you're able to, rebut whatever the court is trying to say with the gating concerns. How can you say Kagan is your favorite when Gorsuch is right there?
The amount of our legal
Gorsuch is kind of mid
process that could happen, and it would make it where everybody benefits. The dockets would go quicker. Lawyers wouldn't have to be doing as much bullshit work. The clients wouldn't be paying as much and stuff like that. And like, I do not see any. And the deal is let's say the system fucks up. Okay, great. That's the time whenever we can file some motions or something, right? Like, I would way rather us have a system like that be efficient 99% of the time, and then 1% of the time we have to, oh, there was a fuck up and we got to fix it, rather than all the time we always have to be making sure, like, okay, oh fuck, this guy did a fucking claim on sworn account and I didn't do a verified denial in my answer, so that means now this guy can go to an MSJ and just win automatically because I didn't do that shit. Fuck me, I guess, right? Like, yeah, there's a lot of that shit, and I think that people are too ready to defend the adversarial nature of our system and not allow for like just some kind of common sense efficiencies to be put into place.
Okay, so you kind of want these addressed more like subject matter jurisdiction findings, where the court can just do it sua sponte and be like, "Hey, this is not proper."
Yeah, I think that would be fun.
Okay,
Yeah.
no, I get that. I get that.
Why? Why though? So there's like a set of things that you want the court to be able to do sua sponte. I understand it for subject matter jurisdiction because that really relates to power, like the inherent authority of the court to issue the kind of thing. Like, guys, subject matter jurisdiction is so important. You know, it's like coming to me, you know, we're on the Discord stuff, right? And saying, Pisco, unban me from the community. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I look down and I look at your request for an unban, and it's like, you know, you're banned from Brazil. I'm like, what? I can't do this for you. I don't have the power. I don't have the power to unban you from Brazil. So, nope. Where statute of limitations is like, well, I have the power, right? It would be like saying, I can unban you. I have the power to do it, but I'm not going to, because my rule says, and if you don't submit a ban appeal within X amount of time, you're permanently banned or something like that, you know? I just feel like subject matter jurisdiction is like, it gets to the heart of like, what can I even order you to do? This is not even a claim that I can act upon, because I don't even have the basic power to hear it or to order relief subject like related to it. You know,
I would be surprised if there was.
That's why, like, the whole discussion I had with Rob, I thought was very important regarding the Boasberg decision, where he's like, they say territorial jurisdiction. Yeah, that just means like territory, bro. It doesn't mean jurisdictional in the sense of legal jurisdiction, and which is the normal thing is subject matter jurisdiction. Yeah, I'm snarking Brazil.
Like a lot of prejudice that came out of that, such that like it would be worse than our current system. It would genuinely surprise me, because I think in our current system there is actually a lot of prejudice that exists by not allowing courts to do that, or at least not like encouraging courts to do that. Just like, because I've done a lot of like contract enforcement and collection work that involves parties like that, and it's like, yeah, we shouldn't have won this shit, but we did because these people are fucking old and in a retirement home, and the fucking retirement home didn't hand it to them, but the retirement home did accept it, and that's not our fucking problem. So we're taking their house now, and it's like, yeah, that's kind of shitty. That probably shouldn't happen, but what are you gonna do?
If you just admitted
let's
that
get to juicy stuff.
All 15,000 listeners of this podcast.
Hey, fucking all those people. Like, those people are all dead now, so like, it's yeah. I mean, yeah, like, it's, I don't know. There's like, that's kind of the thing, is like whenever people talk about like the legal system, it's like, oh man, there's these like, because like I'll talk about working like the death penalty appeals and stuff like I did in the past and other shit like that, and people are like, man, that's like so crazy, that's so fucked up, blah, blah, blah. It's like, man, like, yes, but also like if you were a lawyer, you would see just so much other weird fucked up shit that you're like, Jesus, really, we're doing this? Okay, I guess, like, let's go.
Well, on that note, I think we should move on to the next topic. That is, what changes would you want to make in the current legal industry?
So I'm gonna do the trial one that I had an idea.
Okay,
this is like a legit one. Okay, and this is maybe my most radical position as far as like what I think we should change in the legal industry. I think it is. I think that if
no more trials,
and I'm specifically saying for jury trials, but I'm open to this for bench trials too. I don't think that juries or any fact finder should be provided any identifying information for the witness: race, gender, age, any of that shit. It should be presumed prejudicial. All right. If you want to introduce the fact that this person's a white man, you need to make the argument for why it's important to the case, because I don't know how any of that matters to the jury when deciding these things.
You're not introducing the fact that they're white, and they just are white, and they can see the defendant on like the evidence. Maybe do you ever have to introduce his race as a matter of evidence of race? When does that happen? Maybe to show a hate crime or something? Or maybe if it's like in dispute, if part of like the I don't know, the the evidentiary case turns on his race and there's a dispute about it, maybe. My client was not motivated to assault this man because of his race. He's not even black. I have an expert here on race. I don't know how often this is introduced. It's kind of just like assumed, or it's not at issue, at least in the formal sense.
Me, it's a thing where it's like if you look at any statistics, it's so easy to pull out sentencing and like jury deliberate jury verdicts that are like biased based off of race, based off of gender, based off of age, based off all these things. It's like very clearly these biases exist, and I do not understand why.
Race neutral trials. This guy, I don't understand why he said Ryan Mullally. Clearly, no affirmative action. We have to be race neutral in college admissions and race neutral in trials.
It's important for the jury to know all that stuff about them when we know it causes that much bias. So to me,
just to clarify, you mean witnesses or defendants?
Defendants. I would even say, I would say witnesses too.
Put a bag over the head.
I'm willing to just start at defendants, but I would say like I just.
What if people make assumptions based on their voice?
Know what the value is for the jury to know that information.
So would you have the defendant like in a different room or like behind a curtain, or how would you have to
yeah. No! They have a right to confront their witnesses. You gotta fucking... Are you serious?
They just fucking Wizard of Oz it. Put them behind a curtain. Give them a voice changer.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, voice changer. What if you were selection of words? All right, he's thought about this. He's thought about it.
Fucking answer the questions into the record. That's it.
Okay.
Because what are we losing by doing that? It makes.
Wait, did you say age as well, Kafka?
Yeah, fuck that. They can't know that.
So what if it's like someone who's like targeting children, like some kind of case? You can't say age of the children.
Well, you can make that argument. You could say, Your Honor, it's important that we know the age because of the nature of the crimes, and that would just be like an evidentiary hearing where you just go through it, or a Dalbert hearing, I guess, because it's about a witness, and you just be like, here you go. Like,
I think it's stupid.
It's important for them to know about this stuff. And the judge
if the thing is at issue,
or not, right? I think.
Hang on. All right, let's see. If the fact is at issue, okay, I guess I understand what he's saying. You should not. But age is almost always relevant, man. Right? No, it's not. That's wrong. I don't know. Couldn't you do similar kind of statements about like occupation and that? I just think that you should let the litigants sort it out. If it would be unduly prejudicial to expose the jury to the nature of the person's skin, their occupation, their hobbies, then you should just have like motion practice on that, right? But assume that you can. He just wants to change the assumption, right? So the assumption would be, don't let in these factors. I don't know. I think it's fine. I don't think.
It's a thing where it's like with technology and the way that our system works, I don't even think this is that burdensome on our legal system to do it. And I think it would lead to far more equitable outcomes for like the defendants, both in criminal and in civil cases. So like, it's just a thing to me where it's just like, I feel like this is just kind of a relic of a time in which we had like, everybody had to be in the room because we didn't have the technology for it. Now it's like, we very clearly have the technology where we could do this. And I would bet so much money that this would reduce bias by like a huge amount and make things a lot fairer. And yeah, I think that's something that like, if we did it, it would cost very little versus how much benefit the society would get.
A lot of legal fees.
The very second time I got called to jury duty, I walked into the courtroom and it was like a child sex trafficking case, and I knew the defendant was guilty just by looking at him. So I kind of get your point actually, but it turned out he was guilty. So sometimes maybe those situations are
Yeah, but to be fair though, and that one you probably got rejected from the jury immediately because they were like, "Is anybody here fucked a kid?" And you're like, "God damn it!" And you just like had to raise your hand.
No, real story. I got rejected from the jury because I said that I don't trust law enforcement, and they literally said, "Are you serious?" I said yes. And
oh my god,
that is the fastest way to get off of a jury in a criminal case. Anytime they're like, "Anybody here not trust cops?" And you're like, "I don't." And they're like, "Well, that's half our fucking witness. Get the fuck out of here."
They made me sit there until like the afternoon break though, and like it was really weird. They selected like 3 mothers for the jury who like were like, "I'm very uncomfortable here in this case," and they're like, "You're on the jury." It was really fun. But I got dismissed. Like I was like juror like 9 or 10 on the panel or whatever. They interviewed like 14 people in the box, and they're like, "Okay, you're done right away."
That's great. Yeah, really the one time I got jury duty, like the day of my jury duty, a natural disaster.
Answer the question: yes or no? Do you like?
And I like just like looked out the window, and it's just like, I'm pretty sure it's not happening today. And I got like an email. They're like, "Don't even worry about it. You don't." If I was guilty, be safe. And I was like,
"Could I do this?"
I would go jury duty. But now I wish I had. It sounds like fun.
here's what I understand, and I kind of memed about this in the past, like in the Discord and I guess in Discord. But like the fact that we have these lengthy trials for like certainly guilty people, like Nicholas Cruz, the parkour
he doesn't
shooter,
like that.
or Darrell Brooks, the was it Waukesha, the
Darrell Brooks,
trampler or whatever driver. It seems like such a waste of time and resources. Certainly, there must be a better way to just say like these people are omega fucked. Let's just kill them or execute them. I mean, I think it's such a waste of time. I understand that we have like this, we cling to this like, due process. We have to go through all the proper legal channels. To me, it just seems like such a waste in the modern day with all the technology that we have.
I mean, I actually like I want to agree, but I think there is at least a kernel of truth in there, in the sense that like,
what's the kernel?
There definitely are ways that we could make things more efficient and faster. Like, I mean, like the fact that like there's way too much federalism going on in our legal system, where it's like we know how to do, like we have the technology to just have every single court on the same system. Why do we have every court have their own one? Why do we have all of these different local rules? Like just, it doesn't make sense. And also like a lot of that kind of shit is like actually what drags the system down.
I mean, I do wish that there was a more unified court system of filings and stuff, but it does seem to be just like a function of sovereignty. And to upset that balance, you would be undermining the sovereignty of all these different states in a major way, right? The courts of law, pursuant to the state constitutions or organizing documents, they don't rely their existence on the Constitution, and so the hook for the federalization of it. Maybe there are ways you can do it procedurally or technologically, and maybe if anything, we can just get agreement between the states to have like one e-filing system, one set of a set of records, shit like that. But it is maddening, like how difficult it can be to find certain things. New York has like 4 different named systems that relate to online filing. There's one where you can actually file. There's places where you can look at certain courts, but only like Supreme Court, which is the general trial court, not like city county courts. Maybe county courts, but not like local village courts and shit. Then there is one for those types of courts, but it's not as robust in terms of downloading filings. It's a fucking mess. I do agree with that.
I know what you're saying, but like also, fuck you, that's my job, and deal with it. We get to make the rules about it, and that's how we make so much money. So like,
well, I still want you to make a lot of money, so I'm on your side.
But yeah, I mean, like, it's also kind of this thing where like, having done criminal appeals, you would be surprised at how fast a lot of those trials go. Like it's like whenever you see those really long drawn out trials, they're definitely, in my experience, they are not the norm. Like they fucking push those things through. I saw like I was working on an appeal for this guy. It was like one of the first murder cases that was being tried in my state after
Okay. Am I being unfair? Maybe it's just that we see all the plane crashes, like they're more like reported on or something. So I'm not claiming that there are more plane crashes now. I know a lot of them they're not like airliners or whatever. But do you guys notice that there's a lot of plane crashes
after COVID?
Or is that just like confirmation bias, election bias, that kind of stuff?
Like, we're actually gonna just pause murder cases. It's like really hard to do them during COVID. So like people were getting arrested for murder and sitting in jail.
Yeah, no, I totally agree on the sovereignty point with Trump versus or it's Anderson v. Colorado, right? I don't know that it's Trump v. Anderson. It's the Anderson decision. I think it's Anderson v. Colorado, state of Colorado. But yeah, that's a whack case. That the Anderson decision is, I think, arguably a stupider case than Trump versus United States, and it was unanimous on some issues.
3 years waiting for trial, and everyone was like, tough shit. But anyway, so this guy like shows up to trial, and like day of, he fires his defense counsel and is like, I'm just gonna represent myself. That trial was like, it was over 3 days, but that's because like one day they basically just like took a break for 2/3 of it. So like total the trial was maybe like 14 hours for like a very serious murder. And it's like, and they just didn't, and they were like,
or was it Griswold's?
We don't give a shit. And then we get the appeal.
Oh, because she's the Secretary of State, probably.
And like, it was funny because like reading the appeal, you're like, oh, this obviously seems like a lot of problems. And the lawyer I was working with was like, no, they don't care. And I was like, well, this guy seems like he doesn't know the legal system, and like the judge probably didn't do this right, and he didn't do this right. And the guy's like, yeah, but I mean, he shot a cop. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, are they supposed to release some Epstein files today, or is it tomorrow?
I didn't win on appeal. Like there was no retrial. Yeah, so like I understand your frustration, but at the same time, trust me, the criminal law system is in no way like giving them a lot of room and space to like waste a lot of our money. They like, you know how they used to say like, oh, the death penalty costs too much money because you get like 8 appeals or whatever, right? They actually changed that. You don't get as many appeals as people said you do anymore, and like the process for it is way more streamlined and way less expensive than it used to be. At least the ones that I interacted with, it was like, nope, you get like maybe like theoretically you're gonna get
Yappers. Let's get something controversial.
At most 5 bites at the apple to prove that you're innocent, but really it's maybe like 2 of those are legitimate. All the rest of them are like
filing a form. It's faster than usual.
Automatically go into the rejection bin. Like you're like mailing a form into a court, and the mail slot goes into her.
Is that like,
so yeah? I mean,
little
like,
audio
wrong,
thing
also, like,
consistent?
It's not
fix
bad
that.
I think it is.
Okay, I'll take it. I'm not wrong.
The one benefit of the longer trials is in the Nicholas Cruz trial, we got that incredible moment where the defense attorneys were getting death threats to their kids, and the lawyer brought it up, and the judge is like, I don't care that your kids are getting death threats. And he's like, well, judge, how would you feel if your kids are getting death threats? And she's like, how fucking dare you bring up my kids? I can't believe you did that. Get out of my courtroom.
Wait, I remember that shit.
That was
Yo, these judges think they're God, man. All these judges, they think that they're like, there is nothing. Say what you want about lawyers generally. And certainly, you know, we know what we say about presidents and legislators. They all think that they're fucking judges, think that they're untouchable all the time, no matter what. Now, I have obviously critiqued Trump's attacks on judges in many instances, but like there's some whack hypocrisy on some judge stuff.
I love that one. That was good. Also, okay, but we're not, you know, seriousness aside, fuck all that.
God has a judge complex.
They should make it where there's a third party judge or panel watching every single trial, and then at the end of it, they give one side the MVC award, the most valuable counsel award, and then lawyers have to put up their win-loss ratio.
Stop memeing. Stop memeing
on their public state bar profiles, so we can see how good of a job they're actually doing. Because winning and losing at trial actually isn't a great way to know it, right?
Yeah.
I don't want the judge to say it. I don't want the jury to do it. Fuck them, they're stupid. I want like professionals. I want people that have gone to school for 9 years to show up and judge these counselors, and then give me the definitive who was the better counselor here, right?
I like
State
that.
pays for it. Government has to pay for it. This is a public service. Because then, like, because here's the deal. Then let's say good logic.
Great. So fucking Trump can put in all the people, all the lawyer judges, and so now all of our lawyers are motivated to be. I don't know. Maybe it'll be some independent government that appoints them.
Up on screen, I'm like, whoa, what's this? What's this? You have one NBC award out of 30 trials? Why would I ever listen to you?
Well, that was at the Supreme Court, though.
Yeah, he went to the Supreme Court, so.
Yeah, he was at the Supreme Court. That was his NBC.
I wish I could be impressed. I was impressed by that.
Wish I could be abreast.
I know guys have been there multiple times. They were. I mean, what, you went once and you never went back? What is this? What are we doing?
I know that's a word, by the way.
Like,
sometimes you want to quit at the top. You know, you don't want to be like Philip Rivers coming in at age 44 in the NFL. Like, just quit while you're ahead.
Quit while you're ahead, and then go get fucking owned by Destiny in random online debates.
Sounds like a good life.
At least he tries.
I'll run through my changes. They're pretty short. The first, I think we actually talked about before, Kafka, but I think that any cases for under $50,000 should go to small claims court.
Yes, which I actually like I made a whole big impassioned plea here, and like made all these like all bias and shit. Your change would honestly revolutionize the legal system and make everything so much fucking better.
Wait, what is the cutoff now? Like 10,000 or something?
Depends on your jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Does anyone know what this shit is with like Marco Rubio leaning and taking a picture and saying new? Like, is there some like mean to this? It's so stupid. Have you guys seen this? Wait, I want to show you. We'll get back to this. Don't worry. I'm commenting. I'm doing fair use. But have you seen this? They're cooking him in the replies too. What is this? Was this from like the Vanity Fair piece? Bro is farting. What is happening? What? What? Oh, you shouldn't have done that. Why?
It's like 7,500 in my jurisdiction. It's terrible.
But is it generally like 10 grand or like 7,500 or?
It's pretty. Like there's some places where it's like $1,000 or some shit. Like there's some really low.
Jesus.
Mine is 20,000, and there is a bill to raise to 30. I am so stoked about it.
Oh, that's good.
So it rocks, dude. Just showing up to a person that never went to law school and just like basically crying into the microphone, and they're like, "Wow, this guy really seems like he should win." And you're like, "Fucking yeah." Dude, I love it.
So the second one I have, which I'm sure you'll agree to, or you would like personally, is we kick law school down to 2 years and then 1 year of experience and then the bar exam.
Dude, fuck yeah. Oh my god. Yeah.
These are like serious questions.
I would even fuck the bar exam.
I felt like I didn't even get to enjoy 3L because of the fucking pandemic, which started right as I was in like supposedly the last most fun part of law school. And we all like, oh wait, no, was that even earlier? Now I'm not even remembering. But anyway, like I don't feel like I even got to experience 3L. So I felt like this was my experience.
You got like, let's do 2 years law school and then like give me 3 years experiential. I'm good. That's good. Because I fucking don't care about the bar exam at all.
What is the current least useful year of law school?
The third,
first year.
Oh my god, you guys,
it's definitely third.
You both disagree. Wow.
No, well, what do you mean by like to me? The first year
I'll revise. Yeah.
Okay, because I was like, first year is the least useful because it's just like that is the winnowing year. That is when they're like all the people that
this is what do you mean by useful? 1L is where you're going to decide if you are going to get into a good firm. It's if you want some of this unicorn public interest stuff, 1L grades matter the most. So it is the most useful. 3L is 3LOL. That's the fucking meme of it. 2L is like the sneaky hardest year because you're probably on journal. You're actually having to like be a real person. You might have like some kind of clinic or externship or something.
Shouldn't be here. Here's the worst classes that are the most boring, and all those people fucking leave.
Right.
The 1L classes are not the most boring. This is I don't agree with this. There's some boring fucking.
Here is also
I loved let me think. I loved crim. I liked civil procedure a lot. I didn't like contracts, even though I did good on the exam. I didn't like contracts. But now I appreciate contracts more.
So useless, but only because you are showing up, not giving a fuck the entire time and prepping for the bar. Like that was my experience with third year.
Right, that's what I was saying. The one huge thing about third year is you probably take a class on like how to actually do trials in your jurisdiction, in your state. So that's helpful, but everything else is not helpful at all.
Yeah, I literally would go every class I was in my. Well, this is not fair. I did this in second year too, but every class I would just sit in the back of the room, load up fucking Steam, and just play video games the whole time. I didn't give a fuck. Oh my God. I was like, no, fuck that. I was literally like in the back, like playing Civ 5, and then arguing with my teacher.
Okay, I will admit to one thing. Well, I will admit to one thing. Surrender hands. I'm surrendering. When it was remote learning, I was occasionally fucking around on Discord and second monitor, who knows what you're doing, Sometimes I didn't even have to put up a camera so no one can even see that I'm doing stuff. I'm not saying that it never happened, okay?
About antitrust, like, no, I don't think this makes sense.
Were you guys on Law Review in the Federal Society?
No.
I was in one of two, and you can guess which one.
Federal.
Yeah, I was on Law Review, but Law Review sucks. Sorry. Law Review is great. You should really do Law Review. You should do journal. All that is amazing, and it is valuable work. I'm not gonna say it's a lot of work, in my opinion. You do get better at blue booking, no doubt, and you get better skills, and you step into like a different world of like reading and judging. It's kind of like weird that the law students become like the judge of the Academy of Legal Writing and Journals. It's pretty wild. But yeah, it's pretty monotonous sometimes. but you should do it and firms do appreciate it, because it shows that you're willing to do busy shit that is fucking soul sucking, but also because you probably become a better blue booker. You know the rules of the signals. You know which commas are italicized. You know how to order your signals. Although I think the latest edition of the blue book, you don't have to. It just says like order them in whatever way it makes sense. Just so you guys are aware, when we were doing write on and shit, they those weren't the rules, and there was specific orders. I think that might be different now, of how to order your different citations, and that was a place where everyone got tripped up. But yeah, I mean, journal and law review and stuff is law review is prestigious, and it's good if you get on it. You should probably try to get on it. But if you don't get on it, and if you just have to do some other journal, it's not the end of the world. And you can still get good experience there. You should do if you're in law school, you should do a journal, especially if you have interest in the firm stuff, because they are looking for it. And if you're not writing onto a journal at all, it does look bad. It looks like you're like, why aren't you taking it? It's so stupid too. Like the assumption, we would always like criticize that, like, what if we just don't give a shit about academic writing? But that's not like a good answer, right? So like imagine that you're in an interview, right? I'm the recruiter or the whatever, the mid-year or senior associate or whatever partner that they have to interview you, and they're like, oh, this is a nice resume. Oh, you got good grades. I have to ask you, like, why didn't you do a journal? Just imagine getting that question and not having an answer. It's like, oh, well, I didn't want to do it. That's why, like, I would say probably there's a decent chunk of people who only go on journal so that if they're asked that question at their law firm interview, they will never have to be asked that question. Because there's just like, I don't know what the good answer is. Unless you have like, oh, I couldn't do it because I just had a kid and I had to take care of it. I didn't think it was something I could add. Or, I was doing moot court or something. I was doing fucking some shit. Or maybe there's a good answer, but it usually like actually is some legitimate answer. And if you're just like, I don't want to do it, it's like a tough one to field. I didn't do journal, even though it was available to me. I didn't even try because I didn't want to. So, you guys agree? Jen says, I took the bar right before pandemic. The group after me didn't even have to take the bar, automatic license. And yeah, that's crazy. I am pissed, Jen.
Society, oh my god.
I don't know.
I don't think we had one at my school, to be honest.
We did. It was great because I remember like,
what is a journal? So in law school, you have right, your grades is what you do. You go to class, you maybe are a part of like a club, like you're part of the, I don't know, law school soccer club, or you're part of the environmental law aficionado club. They have like different affinity groups you can be part of. So the Black Law Students Association, or the, I don't know, Pacific Islander Association. So there's a bunch of different things like that. So you have a bunch of extracurriculars. You have your life that you want to do, but there's also this awesome thing that law students do, which is called journal. And so at the end of the first year, typically, after you're done with your final exams, you've already submitted all of your applications to various different firms, things, whatever. You've selected your classes and you're just like, you're ready, right, to go into your 1L summer. There's like probably 3 weeks or so, 2-3 weeks, maybe a little less, depending on what your job you're doing over the summer, your 1L summer job, where that's like the chill time. That is like the time before you're going to start. And listen, I know that your summer associates are jokes oftentimes, in the sense of like, it's not like a shit ton of work as a summer associate. And you're like going and smoozing and having parties and eating lunches and being treated and being wined and dined before before everything happens, right? But in that beautiful 2-3 week window, the perfect time to transition from your finals, which you studied so hard for, because the 1L grades are the most important grades, and you want to prepare to have like a really good thing in that beautiful little window of respite where you can maybe go home, maybe you have some plans, maybe vacation. They're like, what if we make everybody do this competition? And what they'll do is they'll just do a bunch of homework, and then they'll submit it as everyone is fighting for prestige to the different prestigious journals. And then they can feel really bad when they don't get into the ones they want. And so those journals, what their function is, at various different schools, they'll publish, they'll edit, and they'll select and publish legal articles in student-run organizations. They usually have like one or two, maybe faculty advisors. But that's Journal. Journal is these student-led organizations that publish legal academic writing from like real serious people, right? So the Yale Law Journal, don't make that mistake, all right? If you're one of these people who say Yale Law Review, you're immediately outed as a poser who don't know shit. The Yale Law Journal and the Harvard Law Review, those are student-run organizations that have some advices and shit. And those students, when you get on those journals, the editors select interesting articles that academics, like old people, will send to the various different journals, trying to get to like the most competitive school's most prestigious journal. They'll shuffle them around and interface with student reps. These kids, right? These the equivalent of zip-zips in the various different schools, talking through them and like editing their papers and eventually publishing them according to different standards. And so you don't get paid for it. You sometimes get credit. And I think there's a decent chunk of people whose only goal in doing this, except for like the people who are hunting prestige and shit, is for when they get asked the question, why didn't you do, to avoid getting the question, why didn't you do journal? Because it's just like such a fucking fuckered question to deal with. All right. Is that a decent explanation? Did I miss anything? So it's a kind of, they have a name for the brown shooter. Okay. Hopefully they'll get them soon.
Like wondering about like whether we did or not, and then I went to this class that like had fake depositions or something like that, and it was like teams of people doing depositions, and like I was like talking to my team like, oh, we should do this, that, or other, and then like one person seems like, we've probably, I'm like, why do you say that? And like, look over there. And I look over and like one of the guys has this huge Federalist Society sticker on the back of his laptop. And she just goes, that guy's a fucking idiot. And I was like, oh, okay. And we sat down and yes, she was right. That guy was one of the biggest idiots I've ever fucking met in law school. Not the biggest, but one of. And it was just like, oh my God. And yeah, apparently we did have Federalist Society, real containment center for chuds for us.
That sucks. Wait, were you in FedSoc? I hope you didn't say that. I'm not going to go back. I'm just going to ask you, were you in FedSoc?
But do you think that...
All right, FedSoc. There's also, among the different clubs you can join in law school, you can become a chud. And you can become another illustrious member of the Federalist Society. Don't be fooled by their food, unless you are actively trying to be aloof and be like, oh, I might join FedSoc. Let me go to your meeting. Because, listen, when you're in law school, you're not rich, okay? You're living in some dorm, unless you have like mommy and daddy's money or some shit. You're not rich, okay? You're not getting doobie bucks, okay? Doobie's not over here paying for your law school, right? You're taking on debt, and you're not generating income. You're studying and shit. And so what you got to do is you got to learn the ways of the rat. A rat. This is like the scene from Inglourious Bastards. What the smart rats do, these are the rats that survive and get the cheese, is they go around to every single group in like the early weeks, and then even sometimes later on, you see how long you can extend it in the interest of good taste. And these different student orgs, they buy food. They get budget from the school often, and they buy food to entice their own members to come to the meetings. But what you can do as the rat, an intrepid little wanderer, is go to every one of these and just pick up food, and you don't have to pay for dinner. I never did that because I didn't want to do that. Because sometimes the food was mid. But sometimes you're in a pinch. There's some fucking, I don't know what to say, international law club. And you smell that, whatever it is that they're cooking. The Mexican food, the whatever they've ordered that day. And you're walking to your study group and you're like, sometimes it's too much to resist and you just got to pop in there. Bimbo says, not only did I do that, but we had a whole group chat calling out free food on campus. So this is well-known. What I'm saying is well-known, understood. So that is the ethical way in which you interface with FedSoc. Because FedSoc, as you imagine, is probably has a lot of money. Usually they're allocated a lot from the university, but they also have their like donators that will donate to it, right? And so FedSoc has this reputation oftentimes of like having good food. So you go to the first FedSoc meeting, but don't get trapped. Don't get trapped by the wonderful food, the amenities. Because in the context of law school, that food, man, those are the equivalent of golden handcuffs.
Lawyers like across the country lean more liberal or conservative?
It's kind of
like 60-40.
What is that society all about? About sucking Trump's dick. Now that is, but it's about being like conservative originalists, pretend originalists, conservative. They're definitely conservative, but they're pretend principled originalists.
Yeah, but also like I'd say it's an age thing too. Like,
one time I did bring a guest to actually a couple times I brought guests to law school functions.
I don't know if I've met a young conservative lawyer in my jurisdiction. I'm trying to think about it. I would say like for every one conservative lawyer I've met that's like under the age of 40, I've met 30 or 40 non like liberal lawyers. Like I don't know if y'all saw, but I recently was in Texas for an event, and Dan Paxton randomly showed up, the Attorney General for Texas.
Dan Paxton?
He randomly showed up.
Wait,
I was like, oh,
did he just fucking misspeak? All right, everyone see if he misspoke. Did he say Dan Paxton?
Lawyers, like I don't know if y'all saw, but I recently was in Texas for an event, and Dan Paxton randomly showed up, the Attorney General for Texas. He like randomly showed up.
Oh, he said it. He said Dan Paxton. It's Ken Paxton. Oh, fuck.
I was like, oh, I bet everybody in this room likes this guy because he's very conservative, and I'm in Texas. And the minute he left, everybody except for this guy who was like 70 just started talking mad shit about him. Everybody was just like, fuck that guy. I fucking hate him. He's so fucking stupid. And so it was like, oh, okay, fuck. Like, man, these were...
No, even conservatives in Texas fucking hate Ken, dude. This is a bad take. This doesn't show political bullshittery. Even conservatives in Texas, even conservative lawyers in Texas fucking hate Ken Paxton. The dude is an unhinged animal.
Very liberal people. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, I just consulted r/ask lawyers, and it says lawyers in general lean left, so we kind of answered that question.
Yeah, Reddit's a good place for that. We'll know.
All right, so I think I have two more. One is that there should be no individual rules for judges. It should just be jurisdiction-wide what the rules are.
Oh, yes.
You don't get individual
yeah,
rules.
fuck that. 100%.
Sorry.
I hate that. So, all right, I understand what I'm talking about. Judges. So, think about the different sources of authority for courts that have their different rules, right? There's the Constitution, right, which provides something of a framework for establishing courts and what the court's like general parameters regarding jurisdiction will be. But then Congress has implemented statutes actually enacting the courts, because you don't have to have lower federal courts. I'm just using the federal example to show you the kind of levels of complexity. So we have federal statutes that will organize the courts a little bit. And then there's like the Rules Enabling Act, which are a framework by which the courts themselves adopt procedural rules. And those are like the federal rules of civil procedure is an example, right? I believe they have the force of law, but they are, there's a kind of unique process by which they're proposed and then adopted. So you'd think, okay, perfect, very easy. Know your rules. You have to know your rules. And you can know whatever relevant statutes are also at issue, right? And that might refer to like substantive issues of jurisdiction and whatever. But it's not, you don't just need to know the rules, right? Because you need to know how to bring a case according to the venue statute, which is in the rules of civil procedure. The jurisdictional rules, which aren't in the rules of civil procedure. The substantive areas of law, which presumably you're bringing a case about, which aren't in the rules of civil procedure. Okay, so, but that's okay. We have substance. We have, like, you could say threshold questions or things that are tied up a little bit in the substance. And then you have procedure, right? No. That's not it. You have the federal rules of procedure. And then every different district federally is split up and they have their own separate rules. Sometimes they will combine them on certain things. So the SDNY has their own rules. So you have to follow the federal rules of procedure, then you have to follow the district rules, right? SDNY, EDNY, that kind of shit. Okay, so 2 sets of rules plus all of the other statutes. Okay, I think I can handle that. No, every judge can have their own individual rules. And if you don't follow all 3 of those, and then I'm going to add more stuff, the judge is going to be super pissed at you. Counsel, my individual rules are and so the individual rules get just like whatever. Now they can't. I don't think they can like contradict other rules, but it's added levels of complexity regarding length, font, when to file, when to file permission to file a motion, right? So sometimes you have to send a letter. Sometimes there is a rule in an individual judge's rule that's like, before you're allowed to file a motion, you have to like write me a letter. I'm simplifying it just for memes, but it's kind of like that, like a pre-motion letter requesting permission to file a motion. And so it's like a maddening set of interlocking things. And then on top of that, there are some ways in which how states run things can influence what you do in federal court. And sometimes it's possible vice versa, where we're adopting like the state prejudgment interest rate because that's a rule of substance versus procedure or something, right? Or like the cause of action relates to state law and the federal law, it's not federal common law that governs, but some kind of federal guess as to what state law would say. That's like the Erie Doctrine, which everyone fucking despises from civil procedure. And so it's such a wonderful, wonderful system we have here. Yeah, no, like because sometimes I guess judges have experience of people just like overloading the docket with a bunch of motions. And so they'll establish rules and be like, hey, you're not allowed to file this motion unless you first send a letter about like why it's necessary. And the letter will like map on usually to the thing about the motion itself. But yeah, you have to be careful with that. I guess it's to discourage just rampant motion practice. To be like, I don't want to have to go through initial brief, opposition, reply on all the shit that you guys are talking about and just like explode everything. So come to me before you file a motion. And so that is annoying. It is very annoying to have all these different rules and then like, oh shit, I forgot. Her individual rules say that XYZ, yo.
2 more nationwide what the rules are.
Yes.
You don't get individual rules.
Yes.
And this one, actually, sorry, 2 more. This one might be more controversial. No more victim impact statements prior to sentencing.
Dude, okay. We can't go into discussions about sentencing because it's going to take too long. All sentencing hearings are fucked. Just there's so much shit in there that is so fucked up and wrong. The sentencing shit like that is so stupid. It is so fucking believable.
Yeah, pass the bar is a minute to practice.
Dude. It's crazy. You're right. Victim impact statements. Fuck that. Go to the press. Make your statement on screen. Stay out of the courtroom.
I think victim impact statements should only be allowed if they're like harsh on the defendant. Like it's so cucked to like go in there and be like, I pray for forgiveness and we want this person released and I don't care if he killed my mother. Like we all know the story of that. Was it the daughter who like tried to make amends with like her mother's killer and then he killed her like 5 days later? Like it just kind of cucked. So yeah, all victim impact statements should be very harsh towards the defendant.
What that family did to that guy to make him do that, but no, the only time I've ever heard like a really cool like thing happen at a sentencing hearing, this was when I was at the DOJ for a little bit. I was like sitting in on this sentencing hearing, and this guy goes up there and they're like, all right, so you were caught, you're pleading, you're taking a plea deal, so we're gonna read out what you've been charged with. He was caught with like cocaine in his car. He was caught with it. He was speeding. Okay. He was naked in the car.
Reckless.
He was shooting a weapon from the car.
Okay.
He had endangered crocodile eggs in his car.
What?
He was then also arrested for attempting to hunt endangered species, and also then was tied to a big drug trafficking ring.
I think he was going.
But you're
I think he was going for a high score of how many crimes can I get charged with? How many different and weird crimes can I get charged with in one arrest? Oh, we got to do some fucking environmental shit too.
Contributions to help us get like arrest all these other people were so amazing that we're just gonna reduce this down to like a year. And it was like the craziest rap sheet to then turn around and this guy be like state's witness to like also take down this massive Alabama fucking drug trafficking ring. It was the fucking wildest shit ever. If it's cool as fuck, they can say what they want at sentencing. Otherwise, yeah, fuck off.
There's a follow-up on that. When you say there's endangered eggs in the car, are you saying that the eggs were of an endangered species, or they were endangered because he was
oh my god, that's so bad faith.
No,
that's so bad faith. Why would you ask that?
Recklessly, they were endangered species eggs. Like they never said he was driving recklessly. They were saying driving too fast and shooting a gun at a cap alligator or at a no, it was at some kind of endangered bird he was shooting at. They included that in the charges.
I think just when he had women in the car, I was kind of lost. But
yeah. And then whenever he talked, he sounded like Elvis Presley. It was the most
good meme, Kafka.
Oh my god, Pisco term sentencing I've ever been to. Because like,
what do you mean? Okay, can you just stop with like a Pisco term? Kafka-esque is not a term I invented. Shit, I speak. Your name, your handle is Kafka Esquire. So you're clearly playing into the meme. It's funny.
Yeah, anyway, sorry. That was your second to last one?
My last one. Do you know what baseball arbitration is?
No.
I don't think so. I wonder if it's a different label for something I know.
Yeah, so it's basically, they use it in the MLB. So you go to arbitration, and before the arbitration, or probably right before results made, you set client's entitled to $1 million. The owner would be like, hey, I think he's entitled to $500,000. And when the arbitrator makes a decision, let's say they decided $600,000, that's closer to the $500,000, so they award $500,000 and not the actual award the arbitrator said, to try to incentivize the parties to actually reach a settlement beforehand.
Oh, that's so stupid.
That seems pretty based, actually. I like that a lot.
I love it.
Okay,
so I think before trials...
No. Okay, good.
I think before trials, you should have to like
write down in the secret envelope.
Awarded to yours. So in a secret envelope, and then right before the trial starts, after both parties do that, they open the envelopes, and the parties, you're allowed to take the offer right now or proceed the trial.
Deal, no deal.
Whatever the award's closer to, that party gets the award.
Oh,
I mean, like I get it. I don't think it's like from the perspective of trying to encourage of a settlement. I think that's a great idea. My jurisdiction, we have something where it's like, okay, let's say like we're going to trial.
By the way, folks, so much of our system is designed to avoid having like full trials for these issues. And that's why it makes sense to have a prior about whether or not you think filing lawsuits is justified in the main, related to like the economies of litigation itself, because we don't think it's worthwhile. That's why we have a plea bargaining system. Now, are there issues? No doubt. But we want to channel, these kinds of decisions on what the resolution should be to the least expensive, from a structural perspective, method.
And I make an offer to you and I say, look, I think this is worth like $80,000. All right, we'll pay you 80 right now. And if you say like, fuck you, we're going to trial, and then we go to trial and you get 80 less, you have to pay my attorney's fees, right?
Yeah.
So in that way, it's like, yeah, okay, yeah. So like, you have to do it. That's right. And so it's like, but like we have that at our state level, and it's so nice because like the best thing about it is whenever like you show up and you just tell the judge like pre-trial, you're like, we've tried to negotiate, we made a reasonable offer of this amount, and then the judge just like turns and looks at the other person like, you don't think that's reasonable? You realize what's going to happen here, right? Like I've literally had judges say that like, you didn't want to take that, like you didn't think that was a good.
And judges sort of push this norm too, which is like, counsel, have you talked to opposition counsel, about this or that, or like, why are you spending the court's valuable resources when you haven't even like, and oftentimes you'll even have statements on the record in open court saying, I'm directing the parties to try to see if they can resolve this out of court. So not only is it like an ethical norm, it's one that is intuitively shared by the members of the profession. And so like, I do think it's ridiculous for people that I will never consider, the pre-litigation / pre-filing decisions or whatever is like the conduct of court shit, because this is all things that like the reason we have these kinds of norms is precisely because if we didn't, then there'd be a lot of wasted time, a lot of wasted resources, and it would just be fucking stupid. So the court wants the parties to settle their issues out of court. It wants to, if it's not necessary to invoke the court, right? A lot of discovery is done just between the parties. Now, if there really is a motion that needs to be resolved, a protective order or something like that, yeah, you can go to the court for that. But in general, we want the parties to try to operate in good faith between each other.
Offer, and then the person's like, well, no, I think that actually we're talking about, and he's like, okay, like he just like kind of gives him like a tone, and I'm like, yes, and then like you try to win, but then that way you got this kind of like background thing. You're like, man, I fucking know that like at least I'm gonna get fucking paid out of this shit. So yeah, I like that one.
In federal court is I think it's a rule. I want to say 68 offer, and
68.
You can offer it any time. Oh, thanks, God, I appreciate it. You can offer it, I think, like 30 days after the case starts, basically. And from that point on, when you offer it, is when the fees are paid to the other party. If you don't get up until that amount,
that's pretty based.
No one ever uses it though. It's like rare, but
most of the federal stuff that I do, at least statutorily, they're like, nope, we don't do that. No, you're not allowed to do it with this one. It's like, all right.
I would just.
Yeah.
So I personally actually really hate mediation, and I hate that kind of negotiations.
Why?
I'm very like, here's what we're going to pay you. And then they're like, well, what if we did a little dance first? I'm like, how about I just tell you what we're going to pay you and you say yes or no, and then we can go to trial. I know that's what you're supposed to do, but I just really hate the dance that you have to play when you're negotiating a settlement. It triggers the fuck out of me. And I just find it to be such a waste of time and energy where it's like, we're starting at 50, you're starting at 10. And I'm like, well, okay, why don't you just pay us 30 then? And
that's
like, well,
negotiation.
What if you said 12 right now? And I'm like, what if I said 48 right now? And they're like, I think we've got 7 more hours of this mediation that we need to pay for, so why don't we just...
It is annoying the amount of time. So what will sometimes happen is like you're in a room, you're in some like neutral ground or some law firm office or something, and you got one side here, let's say you have a mediator or an arbitrator, whatever the thing is. Oftentimes mediation, and the mediator will like offer different. They're very different. Oftentimes they're like retired judges, or they're people who have experience in arbitration, like they've done whatever the JAMS thing, or now I don't even like remember a lot of the different standards. But it will take hours and hours and hours. Like, tell me what the number is, what you'd be happy with. I'm not going to tell them. And they'll tell me the number, and then they'll tell me the issues that matter to them. And so this is on the table. But the thing is, everything is always on the table all the time. It's always like this game of like juggling 1,000 bouncy balls all at the same time. Because you can't, it's very hard to like ever fully resolve an issue, because the final like number, that number will change your like, okay, if we're going to do this, then you got to let us do that. And you got to indemnify us, not just for this, but for that. And we will also, we want to make sure that we know what the language is here or there before we sign on to anything. And by the way, if you don't indemnify us all the way up to there, then we're not like, we don't have a deal. So changing the bottom line number will it has the tendency to affect certain things, and it's the mediator's job to see where the flexible parts are, to kind of push at those, see where the really inflexible parts are. So okay, well, I know you really want this, and they're not right there. So it is a long process. And so I can totally understand the frustration of the time. I just don't know like how you get rid of it. That just seems to be an incident of negotiation. This kind of pattern of back and forthness. There is a way in which, listen, mediation themselves have their own rules. And so the rules of particular, but you're not bound to, in many cases, unless you've like signed on to it as a contractual matter or whatever, or the court mandates it for some reason, you're not bound to go to a particular mediation like pathway. So I don't know how you would like change that.
Fucking drag this shit out. It's like, great, thanks, love it.
No, I totally agree with you. I do like your method, the Pisco method of just saying yes or no and hoping they say yes. But it's an unfortunate circumstance.
My favorite thing, like, because my boss is like, one of the things I really mind about my boss is he's got like so many of these dumb tricks to just pull out that like, if it was a negotiation for like my own money and someone was saying the shit that he says to me, I would be like, no, we're gonna just end it now. Because
by the way, understand, and people make this like mistake that when I do like the yes no to debate rope stuff, that is not like and it should not be taken as like a reflection of what practice looks like. Because people often be like, this is not a courtroom, this is not whatever, and like this is what I do isn't supposed to be a reflection of the average litigator. Very often, litigation involves like trying not to do this stuff, trying not to give to have these kinds of issues crop up in some way like that, right? I remember a particular case. I'm not going to talk like specifics, but where it was like the litigators on the case who were like, let's not file our own complaint. Let's see if there's a way we can work it out. This is going to be like a messy situation. We don't want to do it this way. And not, I understand some litigators, I can't even say anything. Some litigators, they're like, every hammer is a nail. Every nail is a hammer. Everything is a nail. I don't know what the fucking, whatever the phrase is. And they just want to litigate everything. But in my experience, sometimes it's like the people who are more passionate about the issue are like the people who had their deal gone wrong, which is why they're calling the litigators in the first place. So it's the M&A team or something that fucked something up, or they are like mad. I'm not saying they fucked something up, but they're mad about what's the issue is, right? Or some kind of let me think another context. Some kind of real estate thing, right? The real estate team, they're like super mad because whatever, the tenant or the purchaser is like reneging on something that they absolutely talked about and the contract was written in a kind of, maybe they didn't have a litigator on to like clear everything in the contract. So I sometimes see that there are situations in which the litigators aren't the most gung-ho, let's just file a lawsuit quickly. And it can sometimes be like either the lawyers or like the client, right? Who is actually there and is like the most passionate about the thing.
This is stupid. Let's just go to trial. Where he's like, all right, we've been going back and forth, but now I'm going to bring out some brackets. So instead of us coming down to 35, I'm going to say, how about we bracket this at 30 to 40? And then that's what we're going to use. And I'm like, God damn it. And then he's like, okay.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Get to a resolution today, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to email them directly and say, can you give us a mediator's number? And what's going to happen then is the mediator.
And then what's always the worst is like if there's like another day of mediation that needs to happen or something, you know? Oh, everyone wants to go home and like we don't have a deal yet. We were so close, and
mediator is going to tell both parties just what he thinks it's worth, and then the parties can choose to accept it or not. But that's just, we're just going to see what he says. And it's like the mediator is like a really good friend of his, so like obviously he's going to give us a pretty fucking good deal. And like he sends it to the mediator. And the mediator's like, oh, okay, I'll tell them that it's my idea. So he goes to the side. He's like,
and
hey, I want to do a mediation. No, it doesn't. It happened one time. It happened one time in a spectacular and amazing fashion where it was like, holy shit, that's like way more than we would have ever gotten. Every other time, the other side goes, fuck you. No, we don't want a fucking mediator's number. We're going to go to discovery. And you're like, all right, fuck it. But like, it's just like all these like stupid, and then you got to like justify all of it because the client is sitting there like watching you fucking like play with your PUD with a mediator, and they're like, this is how mediations work. I'm like, this is what we're gonna do. And we do this, it'll force them to do it, and they come back and none of what I just said was true. The other side just said, fuck you, we're gonna come up $1,000. You're like, God.
The real truth is, the realness is, you gotta pick the time when like you want the client in the room at the mediation. Sometimes it's necessary, right, to have like a rep of the client. The real fucking black pill is if you have insurers that are involved, where it's like the insurers have a different set of interests than the client, who has a different set of interests in the opposing party, and sometimes the insurers, they're motivated. It is like a perfect environment for people to be pissed at each other, and for multiple levels of disagreement to occur. It's like, yeah. So having to do client management it can also be taxing.
Damn it. Yeah, because you just try to like, put on a brave face for your client, and then the client's like, well, no, that fucking worked. And you're like, yeah, well, back to discovery, I guess. I'm gonna start billing you some more. But yeah, I fucking hate mediation. So yeah, honestly, I think like anything that makes people stop playing those games, I would be super happy about.
Kafka, speaking of playing games, something I ask almost every attorney on the internet, and some of them have given me pretty good advice, including Pisco, he won't admit it, in his young career, is about booby trapping. For the life of me, I don't understand why you can't booby trap your properties. I understand there's like, maybe you have, fire and rescue or police that need to access your property. Why can't you just tell them, this property is booby trapped and I waive all rights to your services, especially if it's like a rural, like wooded farm property or something of that nature.
He's heard the arguments before.
We use booby traps.
Okay, here's something that like, one of the few like lectures from a professor in law school that I actually like clearly
it's unwaivable because
this is my contract score.
It's unwaivable. We don't want you to put those traps in there, you know, because sometimes we'll need to get in there without your consent. So it's not the issue of waiver. It's one of power and one of whether or not we believe there are places the police should not be able to access on the right circumstances. This is also the issue. There's a great CGP Grey video on it about whether we ought to have like backdoors to all of these encryption things, because an encryption software, right, is essentially an unbeatable lock. That there are some encryption systems that are so good that it would like go beyond the heat death of the universe to like randomly pick out the whatever the thing is. Don't ask me about the tech stuff. And really, this is a problem, right? Because we don't think in the real world, right, that there ought to be such places, that there ought to be places in which you can just put information, documents, stuff where even if the government really needs it, they can't access it. So before we had like computers and hard drives and shit, it really was, we can break down the door. We can spend time and maybe it'll take some time to break down whatever the fuck is going on. But yeah, there's just like everywhere. If you get a warrant, if you have a showing, the judge signs off, you can get it. But phones and devices for which there's like encryption, that really can be an unbreakable lock. And so why should those things exist? And not have backdoor. That's like the argument, right, from like the government. It's like, well, nothing else works this way, where if we get a warrant, we can't, so why can't we force them to do it? And the problem is like once you make everyone do a backdoor solution, you're not really addressing the issue. The issue is the tech can be replicated, and you can't get to the American legal system and their police officers can't enforce these regulations on encryption across the internet, and the internet doesn't recognize distance in the same way, right? It's the speed of light. So the jurisdictional issues are murky in the context of internet shit. And so, yeah, what if you're talking about like services and software or whatever that's encrypted by tech companies that are outside the reach of Uncle Sam? So all that is to say, basically, like, it's an interesting concept for me, whether or not you should be able to waive or prevent permanently, even if you forego certain privileges, government intrusion into your affairs, even when they meet the thresholds that we like society would impose on them. But I don't think that is that helpful though to the booby trap question, which I think you can't waive if we need to access it. Maybe by reason of technology we can't do what we do with encryption, but that shouldn't apply to booby traps, in my opinion.
By this old professor who was super badass, very successful businessman.
Oh, someone has a good comment. But we've always been able to write unbreakable, undecipherable code. I don't know why the analogy would be a lock and not just a password, which is what it is. Let me think of how I see it. I guess maybe it's a blurred line or something, but we're like, can you even, like, what are you accessing? With a lock, with the encryption, the stuff of it is behind the lock. Whereas a code, I understand it's kind of, I'm not sure if I'll be fully able to justify that. A code, like, that is the thing. It's just encoded or something. I don't know. Maybe I have to think about that some more. But at least in like the main run of situations, you can put a lock behind your files. And I guess you could put it in an indecipherable code. Yeah, I don't know. Let me think about it.
Because he enjoyed it. And someone asked him about real estate once, and he goes, I don't know what it is about American law where we just think that real estate is this magical, like precious thing that we all just have to fucking, create all these special, beautiful little rules for because it's so amazing. We've got Blackacre and blah, 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 blah. But anytime real estate is involved.
All right. So the objection is being raised now in multiple chats. Isn't it more like password and code versus access, and that physical access, yes, that's always maintained, but we shouldn't analogize to informational access, which has always been guarded and potentially guardable in an unbreakable way. Is that the kind of objection? Like, what I might say to that is like, as physical access starts to become less and less relevant, does that change your intuition about what ought be the case? Like, once all evidence for potential malfeasance would exist digitally, and almost none of it is, or like that pendulum is shifting significantly, as opposed to physical, does our intuitions about what ought be the case change? But interesting. I mean, and I appreciate you. Some good comments here. I have about 5 more minutes, unfortunately. I'll want to finish the rest of this at some point, but I have to go soon.
It's totally different, and it's stupid, and we shouldn't do it that way. There's no reason to do it that way, but we do. That's just what we do for some fucking reason. And he's right, and that's kind of where booby traps come in. Booby traps are this thing where it's like, oh, property. You can't make property unsafe for people. If you make property unsafe, we get hurt. And like you said, it's my fucking property. I don't give a shit, right? Like if I would own a gun, that's unsafe. People get hurt if I just own a gun, right? But I can do that. But for some reason, if I put the gun on a box and I set it so it goes off if somebody steps on the plate, all of a sudden, now it's society's problem because I've made this property unsafe, right? And so, like, yeah, that's like where a lot of it has come from.
These are really smart comments from the chatters. Wouldn't it be self-incrimination to provide the password for the evidence? Yeah, there's a kind of self-incrimination issue, which is like the fact that you would know the password to the culpable set of files would tend to show that you're guilty of it, right? Who would know the password but the murderer? Is kind of the argument. Now, you could try to do a limiting instruction or prevent the introduction of the evidence that you knew the password or something, but it still is, there's like a fundamental issue of self-incrimination too. But here, understand the question is like, if it were technologically feasible, would we want the creators of encryption software, not the people using it, to create the backdoor? So it's another party who is not self-incriminating, right? It would be the encryptors. If it were feasible from a jurisdictional and technological perspective to limit access to encryption to only certain purveyors of it. It's also another reason why, like, some of the kind of like digital ID laws, it's hard to make a system that is like fully able to withstand the sweeping nature of the internet and its lack of respect to legal boundaries and borders. How is it related to the booby trap? Oh, I just mean, like, what got me thinking about it was Gundam had said, well, what if I tell the police, hey, I waive your services? And I say, well, you could waive their services or something. Let's say I think that's plausible that you could do that. But they could still have a really, really, really good reason to enter your property in which they don't need your consent. And it's some pressing concern. And that got me thinking, like, okay, if we would allow it in the context of the booby traps, being like, no booby traps, not just because of the waiving of the services or whatever, but because we might really have it to get on your property and we don't want to have to deal with booby traps. Why can't the pressing need force the encryptors or having access to the thing of it by the same policy rationale force the government to make the encryptors to make sort of bypasses for their encryption? Before you go, please at least listen to the question segment. I can't. I have to go in like 3 minutes. I'll come back to this.
If you look at the booby trap,
like I have like a thing I need to go to.
Stuff that I read a lot about, like talking about like trespass and about like how people have like a right to their home in the space and all this shit. It's just like, who cares? Literally, who fucking cares? All right. Like, I'm sorry, booby traps. They're like, it's just not a thing that I give a shit about. I agree with you. I think that it should, like, I don't see why it should be illegal. And, like, I don't think you should have to give notice to people. It's your property. You have a right to your property.
I love it.
Make it unsafe. You can.
And I'm sure Gilmore agrees. We can move on then.
Wait, can I have one thing about property? One of my neighbors the other day drove a truck onto my lawn and dumped their leaves on our lawn. What do you think about that?
Oh my god. Did you castle doctrine him?
My wife walked out and was like, "Oh, what are you doing?"
What did they say?
They were like, "Oh, we didn't realize."
Good story, Gilmore.
Like, they closed the door.
or on your wife's face, and I hope she left.
What a great name, Gilmore.
Yeah.
Did they fix it?
Very
Okay.
No, they
Wait,
already
they
dumped them out. No, they already dumped them all out. It was like the bed of a truck.
Why are you being a bitch? Why didn't you make them pick them up?
It was like I live in like a forest, so
I live in the
Who gives a
forest.
shit? It's the principle of it.
I just couldn't
Oh,
believe
you just send them a bill. Yeah, you just send them a
cool.
bill.
I have pretty
Have you
extreme
not
use
done
of
that
property. I feel like if they come onto your property, you should just be able to shoot them if they don't leave.
No, see, okay,
Wait,
you're like,
they don't
I'm not lying. I got a place to be. You got things to do. I got a place to go. All right, folks. We're going to keep watching this at some point, finish it. Either tomorrow or when I'm back in the parental unit house with for the holiday. Guys, I understand a lot of big feelings. A lot of very big feelings, a lot of great feelings, a lot of terrible feelings, all that shit. I appreciate your patience always. I love you guys very much. Even the haters, especially the haters. We'll see you very soon. Stay cool.